Good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. We're here. Nobody lost yesterday, so we got that going for us. No crushing feeling, no unmitigated disasters for 24 hours. I mean, sure, nobody played, but that's again, you got to look at it in the perspective is key.
I think I could get used to this.
Right? Like, if we could go 24 hours again without anyone losing in crushing or embarrassing fashion, well, that's a pleasant 48 hours here in Baltimore. That would be wonderful. All right, hi. Yeah, we got a lot to do on the program today. Coming up, we're going to chat with CBS NFL Analyst, former NFL kicker Jay Feely, because apparently there's a kicking problem in Baltimore. Of all of the damn things, I was on with my friend Seren Petro in Kansas City because I do the regular hits with him. And we were talking about how, like, of all the things you could have told me about the 2024 Orioles, the bit where they just stopped hitting, like, that's the one that I'm like, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, they've had all their pitchers get hurt, and somehow the starting pitching isn't the problem. They never had a good bullpen, and right now I couldn't even argue that the bullpen is the problem. And they never had a good one. Like, there was never a point this season where we're like, wow, the Orioles really have a good bullpen. Never occurred. And yet today, I can't say that the issue is the bullpen. I can't wrap my head around it. Of all the things that I thought would be an issue for us in Baltimore that we might be dealing with, the offensive line part, we knew that was going to be a thing. We knew that was going to be a conversation. Did we know it was going to be this bad? No. Did we know that they weren't going to help out coaching-wise and trying to overcome the offensive line issue? I will have to admit, there's like a bubbling Ben Cleveland truther part of the internet that I was not prepared for. Like, there's a part of Twitter that genuinely believes that we learned everything there is to know about Ben Cleveland from the 2 games that he played last year, and that obviously he is a quality NFL offensive lineman, and the Ravens are doing to him what they once did to Bryant McKinnie, who will join us a little bit later on in the program this morning. I don't know that he'll have any perspective to offer about that topic, but he happened to be in Baltimore. But yeah, there's a weird part of the internet that's like obsessed with the idea that Ben Cleveland is just in the Ravens doghouse, and it's shameful that he's not playing. And look, man, I can't tell you that definitively that's not the case. What I can tell you is anybody who is overreacting to the fact that he played fairly well for 2 games last year and suggesting that that means definitively that Ben Cleveland is a quality NFL offensive lineman is out of their gourd. And I love you. And one of them is our buddy Spencer, who does our betting stuff for Pressbox. And I know I love Spencer. I love him. But 2 games is not definitive of an answer, which doesn't mean that it might not also be correct that they would be better with Ben Cleveland playing at right guard. But it's a weird bit to be doing on the internet where people are like, oh, they're screwing over Ben Cleveland, or they're dog. We're all worked up, man. It sucks. Like, it sucks that the Ravens are 0-2. Nobody's having fun. Nobody. But yikes. I do think that maybe a little bit more Roger Rosengarten might be the option there at right tackle, and then that could potentially make Patrick McCary the option at right guard. But we'll see moving forward how that plays out. John Harbaugh wouldn't commit. He said and they're constantly looking at potential personnel changes. So there's that. Got that going for him, which is nice. Jay Feely will join us a little bit later on. We'll talk about Justin Tucker. Also, Bryant McKinnie, I mentioned. Steve Wyche, NFL Network, was in town this weekend. We'll see what he thinks is wrong with the Baltimore Ravens. We will do Waiver-Wire Wednesday with our buddy Joe Serpico. And also today, Mike Bordick joins us to talk about the Birds because fun. Just happy fun times. Fun times in Baltimore today. Yeah, that's what we got going on for us. Today's show brought to you by the Arthur Millette Show, which returns Tuesday, October 1st. We will be at the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson. Hope that you will come join us for the next Arthur Millette Show. It's brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER and Easy Pass. You can find out more about the entire schedule for the Arthur Millette Show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. That's MAULET. The Arthur Millette Show returns Tuesday, October 1st at the Green Turtle in Towson. It ended up being a heck of a football game last night. It was one of those things where it was not a good football game. It was a plotting, kind of meandering football game for a while, and then all of a sudden it got really good. A lot of people that are bothered by the fact that Jason Kelce was in the booth for a quarter. I don't know if it's just... I'm trying to think about how I would feel about this. Like if the Ravens were playing in Philadelphia on Monday Night Football, and Jason,
so is it mostly Falcons fans that are upset, or just people in general?
I think it's like people that...
I guess because Philly's so dislikable. And
I think it's natural cynics, too. Like, I think, and there's a lot of us that are like, oh, yeah, ESPN's just playing up to Philly because they're the big market. Well, one, I think Atlanta actually is the same size, if not a bigger market than Philadelphia. Now, I don't think they have as rabid a fan base because, as I pointed out to a lot of people in Atlanta, college football comes first. It's one of those weird things. It's not that they don't love the Falcons. It's that there will never be a day that the NFL is as important as college football is in Atlanta. It's just not the way, or in Georgia in general. It just doesn't work that way. College football and weirdly, maybe even high school football. Like, it's just a weird thing about that place. So I think there's natural cynics that just believe they're playing up to this rabid fan base of the Philadelphia Eagles by putting Jason Kelce in the booth. Well, like, maybe. I would also suggest that, have you turned on a football game recently? All of the commercials involve Jason Kelce. It's his world, man. So, like, yeah, I can... If the point is that you think that it, like, shows favoritism, maybe? I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. I couldn't imagine that being... How good is your life if you're worked up by that? If you're worked up by Jason Kelce being on the Monday Night Football broadcast when he, works for ESPN, it's the same thing when, like, a player goes into a team's Ring of Honor and they do the ceremony at, like, halftime of a game. They typically invite them up to the booth. Like, if a legendary player goes in. Not, with all due respect, if, like, Matt Stover goes in.
Wow.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't think he's going to be invited into the Monday Night Football booth. But if, like, you happen to be in... I'm trying to think of guys who else retired besides Jason Kelce last year.
I don't know. He's the big one.
Yeah, he really is the big one, right? Are there any other players that retired? There has to be. What am I forgetting?
Tavon Austin.
Okay, I don't think that's going to be the one, man.
He retired.
I don't think that's going to be the one.
I mean, yeah, there are definitely others.
But, like, again, if they were in Charlotte for a Monday Night Football game the year after Luke Kuechly retired, then I'm going to think, and Luke Kuechly was going into the Ring of Honor or whatever they call it in Charlotte, and they're there, the game that he's going in. And oftentimes teams do this with primetime games because some of these, what?
I'm just confused. David Bakhtiari, he's retired, really?
I would have guessed that he had retired before that, frankly. I didn't realize he was still playing last season. Yeah, you're not exactly coming away with the legendary names that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I know. Matt Barkley apparently had called it quits officially last year.
That's the one. Thank you for finding the one that we were looking for.
Randall Cobb, Fletcher Cox.
What?
Fletcher Cox, Randall Cobb.
Yeah,
Mason Crosby. Jimmy Graham.
I thought Jimmy Graham was still playing.
Is he? Is he still playing?
Maybe he's not. I thought, I don't know, maybe I thought that he showed
Justin
up.
Houston.
Did Justin Houston? All right, whatever. The point is we're not getting the answer that I'm looking for. Moral of the story being, I think that happens. I think it's just the way that it goes. Now, you would say, hey, Jason Kelce didn't go into the Ring of Honor last night. It wasn't necessary, but he does work for ESPN. And it also might very well be that Jason Kelce is interested in doing games at some point, or perhaps down the road, instead of just sticking at one of their college football crews in to do, like when they have next week, I want to say is their first doubleheader week of Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that in their history, they've just taken a college football crew and shoved it in to do the Monday night game, which is
sometimes it's Reese
Davis and Kirk Herbstreit.
I don't know.
Herbstreit doing the Thursday night game.
It's usually like Louis Riddick, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Louis Riddick's good.
And Orlovsky sometimes.
Okay, well then maybe I take it all back because that's a good booth. I'm saying that, like, some of these, like, they put, with all due respect, I think Noah Eagle's an outstanding broadcaster, but the Eagles-Packers game with him and Todd Blackledge doing the game did not feel like a primetime NFL broadcast. It just didn't, in part because those guys haven't done it. That's not the way that I think Noah Eagle's really good and is going to be a star in this business for years to come. But he hasn't established his cachet in the NFL. What we know of Noah Eagle in the NFL, frankly, has largely been Nickelodeon games. I think they could use a second booth that has some cachet that we're like, wow, this feels like a big game. And that would be what I would say, like, might be part of the reason Jason Kelce was in the booth, is because they want him to be somebody that could be in the booth and give some cachet to a broadcast at some point. Can't believe I'm spending this much time. This on me. It wasn't worth it.
So you can put Kelce over Riddick or
No, I do like. That's the problem. Is that
Yeah.
now that you bring it up, I do like that booth. I do like Louis Riddick is. Louis Riddick is about as good as it gets in this business. Like there are few that are better.
Who's the
than
play-by-play
him.
guy for? Is it Test? No, they don't do Testator anymore.
Dog, you're asking the wrong person, man. I don't know. I mean, they're doing this next week, so we're gonna find out. We're gonna get our answer next week as to who is their secondary team and secondary play-by-play person. I don't think it's Mike. Oh God, it would be hilarious if it was Mike Greenberg. They're just like
Mike Greenberg and Stephen A.
He just does everything. That's the way it goes now. You guys demand it. I don't even like this because I don't dislike Mike Greenberg as a person. Like he's a nice enough guy, but like God. Him and Kirk Herbstreit, like these are just convinced that's all we want in our lives is more Mike Greenberg and Kirk Herbstreit.
Well,
I swear to God, Kirk Herbstreit's going to end up replacing J.J. Redick on the NBA Finals broadcast. Like they're leaking out all these names. Like it could be Grant Hill, it could be Tim Legler, it could be Richard Jeffers. It's going to end up being Kirk Herbstreit. Let's just be honest. It's going to actually. It won't stun me at all when they try to make it Jay Billis, who never played in the NBA. It won't stun me one bit when they try to put Jay Billis on the NBA Finals broadcasts because he's the guy that's just walking around the office. Like that's what ESPN is now. Their NBA pregame show, just whoever was at the office that day. They like say
I feel like Billis and Herbstreit stay in their lane pretty well though. They just. I mean, I obviously Herbstreit leaking into the NFL, but he's only doing Thursday stuff.
I understand that.
We haven't seen him any other day of the week,
and like it's so uncomfortable because like it's almost like Al Michaels knows whenever they do a Thursday night game, he's always asking Kirk Herbstreit like, "Well, you watched this guy in college." Like he knows that the only cachet that Kirk Herbstreit has is in college football, and by the way, he's very good at college football. And this isn't an anti-Kirk Herbstreit thing in general. I actually think that he's good. I just don't think he fits doing Thursday night football. God, how did we? I blame you.
Me.
I
didn't even know anyone was that hot and bothered by Jason Kelce. I was ready to just.
Yeah, the internet.
I was obviously watching the Manning cast.
Of course, you were watching the Manning cast.
So I probably wouldn't have a good opinion because I was just watching Miles Teller be a Eagles homer with the Mannings during the third quarter. So. So I guess I probably wouldn't have had a problem.
I got nothing else, by the way, on John Harbaugh's press conference from yesterday. Everybody's worked up about the Ben Cleveland thing. You can't get me to get worked up about that. Is it possible that Ben Cleveland is a better answer than Daniel Faalele? Absolutely, because Daniel Faalele doesn't look like a good answer. Those of you that are convinced there's some sort of conspiracy involving Ben Cleveland and Daniel Faalele are doing the most. I mean, really, you're doing the most. It's one thing, again, if it's someone who has been proven. Ben Cleveland had multiple opportunities to lock down any job in Baltimore and never could. Played a little bit at the end of last season. Looked okay. The notion that definitively proved that he is definitely a quality option or even a better option is nonsense. Which doesn't, again, when you hear that, you hear me saying, I'm Team John Harbaugh. No, I don't know. The only part I'm ruling out is the part where we have some sort of definitive Ben Cleveland answer. We don't. We have 2 games of evidence where he looked okay. That's what we've got. That does not, to me, lead to a conspiracy. That does not lead to anything other than maybe Ben Cleveland could be a better option than Daniel Faalele, specifically because Daniel Faalele has been so bad. That's what we've got. And if it continues to be this bad, then there's no defending any of it. if Daniel Faalele plays again on Sunday and it's this dreadful, then there's no defending it against anyone. It doesn't matter who the other option is. You're at the point where you've got to just try something else, whether they're better or not. Whether it's somebody who's even qualified NFL player or not. I think Josh Jones is supposed to be here to be a tackle, but all of a sudden Josh Jones is going to have to maybe see if he can't play right guard. I mean, like that's where you're getting to. You're getting to the point where it doesn't matter what the alternative is. You just have to do something else. But I'm just not going to get on board with you with the nonsense about there's a conspiracy because Ben Cleveland is some proven commodity. He's not. He certainly looks the part. There's no doubt about that. He definitely looks the part. And he might be, but there is nothing definitive about Ben Cleveland. Other highlights from John Harbaugh yesterday said that he's hopeful that Nate Wiggins could return this week, but that it's too early right now to know if that's the case. I said that it's possible that they could get to a point where they abandon the rotation at right tackle. As I pointed out, like it feels to me like you've got to get to that place. And that, in part, could be me trying to determine what right guard looks like. That I am more interested in looking at Roger Rosengarten at right tackle and McCary at right guard. That's something that I would be interested in seeing. But part of that is just, again, because of how bad Daniel Faalele is, not because I think that Roger Rosengarten immediately becomes the best right tackle in football or anything along those lines. To me, that seems like a better combination. And if I'm saying that 2 games of a sample size of Ben Cleveland looking decent isn't enough of a sample size, then I would definitely say that Roger Rosengarten looking decent for a few plays is certainly not a large enough of a sample size for me to know definitively that he's the answer. I'm trying to think if there was anything else from John Harbaugh's. They added Chris Wormley back to the practice squad yesterday. Yeah, that'll solve everything. I actually like Chris Wormley. He's a good guy. But yeah, that'll solve things. And then bizarre, they brought in Gable Steveson for a workout, which is just.
Was he trying to play D-line or O-line?
I believe he was trying to play D-line.
Okay, all right. That does make sense.
Well, I mean, it's just.
Now it doesn't make sense.
None of it makes any sense. Like, I had no problem, as I said, but when you got 90 guys on your roster, you want to let somebody run around in training camp, fine. I mean, like, there isn't really any justifying it, but fine. Let them run around in training camp. And you could say, hey, turn over every leaf, look at everything. Maybe what they're really doing is telling him, hey, go play in the UFL or whatever this spring, and if you look like a football player, we'll call you back. I don't know. I don't know, but, I mean, it's just kind of bizarre. Like, Gable Steveson, really. Also, there's some things about Gable Steveson away from sports that are not really great. Yeah, that are not great. So, I guess in that way, I'm a bit surprised the Baltimore Ravens would be the team that would bring him in for a workout, but they didn't sign him. As of right now, they haven't signed him, so I'm not gonna overreact to any of that. I feel like that was it, right? Was there anything else?
Fowler is the play-by-play guy for that booth, by the way. I did get to the bottom of that.
I mean, Chris Fowler's good at
I don't know if
everything
I don't know if they'll stick with that. That was officially like the additional Monday night booth last year, so I don't know if that'll.
Look, Chris Fowler's outstanding at everything. My God, but why did we do this? What happened here? What was this segment? We just ended up talking about what the secondary booths are.
You brought it up.
I know. I'm not. Did I say it was your fault?
No. Okay.
There's lots of things that I will get on you about. Trust me. We're only 5 minutes away from me doing it again. But I didn't say it this time. I didn't say you screwed this one up. I'll let you know when that happens again. Today's show also brought to you by the print issue of Pressbox, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. That is Kyle Hamilton on the cover. Great cover story from Bo Smolka, plus lots of college football, college soccer. You meet athletes from all across the state inside this print issue of Pressbox, which, again, is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and any of those hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Orioles back in action tonight as they open up the final homestand of the season. The San Francisco Giants come to town. The first game of that series tonight, Blake Snell and Albert Suarez, the pitching matchup, as the Birds desperately try to. It's the thing that we, because we're so down, because we've like almost moved on, the thing that we're not talking about is that there is still a 3-game series in New York next week. So it's almost like the scene in Apollo 13. You just got to keep the moon in the window, right? Like that's the reality of it is, if somehow, some way, the Orioles can show up in New York next week, at least within range, at least within distance, whatever you want to call it. You can say if they're within 3 games and they could sweep, and that seems unrealistic. But if they can show up in New York within like 2 games, win 2 out of 3, then they would go into that final weekend with genuinely a chance. But none of us feel good about that, and for good reason. But the final homestand begins tonight as the Orioles host the Giants. Joining us now here on GCR, the last thing I thought there were lots of things we might end up talking about in Baltimore this season, but the last thing I thought we might talk about in Baltimore is the fact that the kicker doesn't seem to be as good as the other kickers in the league anymore, which I still don't know what to make of it, and I feel like I should be slapped just for saying that. Let's try to figure out what's going on. Joining us now, CBS NFL analyst, former NFL kicker. He's our friend Jay Feely, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Jay, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
Jay, I don't even know how to talk about this because every time I bring it up, I want to say, like, dude, settle down. You're talking about Justin Tucker. But I think you understand that we're looking around at a league where every kicker in the league is making 50-plus yard kicks routinely at this point. I've never seen a time in the history of the league where long kicks seem to be as easy as they are at this moment, except for one, and the one is the guy that we thought was the greatest kicker of all time. What is going on here?
Well, there's been almost 40 field goals attempted over 50 yards so far, and you're right, there's only 4 misses, and 2 of those misses are Justin Tucker, which is insane because he's been so good over his career. He's right at 90% still for field goal percentage, and still the best kicker of all time. But you just got to give a lot of credit to the guys around the league. I mean, they are making it look so easy. I'm texting my son who kicks in college, and I'm blown away as a former kicker, a guy who played in the league for 14 years, watching how easy it is for these guys to make 56, 57. Kansas City, they got a game winner. It's going to be a 51-yard field goal outside, and they're not even really concerned with trying to get a whole lot closer. But I do remember John Harbaugh doing that with Tucker a couple times as well in his career, and you're just like, man, are you going to get him like a 42-yard field goal? Or are you going to try and work the offense to get down there? And they didn't. I would be as concerned with Justin Tucker kicks as I am with Patrick Mahomes having 3 interceptions, at this point in 2 games. Like, they're going to figure out. They're going to be fine. They've been the best player at their position, and they're going to continue to do that. I have complete confidence in Justin Tucker.
So and obviously it goes a little bit beyond just this year. I guess he's 1 for his last 8 from beyond 50 yards. At what point does it become? Because I feel like it's one thing to say, hey, I'm concerned about Justin Tucker. It's another thing to say, I think you need to cut Justin Tucker. I don't think anybody in this town is suggesting that. Like, that would be blasphemous to say something like that. But when does it become an actual issue that really is impacting your team almost only because of the level of competition, right? That, like, everybody else is doing this and you're not. How far does this have to go before we do start to have that conversation?
Well, I mean, so if you look at his career, and would you agree with me that right now he's the best kicker of all time?
Oh, of course, right? But I think it means more coming from you than it does from me. For the
I've said that on air. I've said that often.
Yep.
I mean, I would have said to Adam Vinatieri during my career because of what Adam Vinatieri did in those big moments in Super Bowls and things like that. the prolonged greatness that he had. But I'm confident in saying Justin Tucker now is that. When you look at his career over 50, 58 of 87 over 50. The best kickers of all time, the best guys over 50 are, around 70% for their career. And that's phenomenal. That's just excellent over 50. It's not easy to make 50-yard field goals, despite what the guys have done the first 2 weeks, showing that. Now, guys have gotten stronger. They've gotten better. The young guys today have started at kicking camps at a young age. When I came out, I got to college, I had never had anybody really teach me how to kick. I was figuring out on my own in college. There weren't places you could go where people knew what they were doing to help you. The guys today, like my son in college, they've had great teaching going all the way up. They go to camp starting at 10 years old. They get the right technique ingrained in them early, and then they practice that all the way through, and they're lifting, they're working out, they're doing a lot more than the guys in the past did, which directly helps the 50-yard field goals. I wanted to get as strong as I could get so that I could stay at 80% as far back as I could go. Because 80% is your is your most accurate exertion level. Whether you're throwing a baseball, kicking a ball, if you're doing it at 80%, that's your most accurate level. And so the stronger you get, the more you can stay at 80%. And I would kind of test that when I would go out. Okay, how far back can I go and stay at 80%? Where do I have to gear up and hit it harder? And I watched Justin Tucker a year ago or 2 years ago practice out here at Arizona State. And he was going back to 70 yards in practice, just consistently trying to ingrain in his body that I can make this. And mentally looking at that 70-yard field goal, hey, it's not that long of a field goal. I don't have to kick this extra hard. I just think, he'll be fine.
He is Jay Feely. He's with us here on GCR. Jay, again, this is going to sound really stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Justin made a joke, I remember, a couple of years ago, and maybe it wasn't a joke. We all kind of laughed at it, where he said, I'm just a system kicker, right? Where, he had made a game winner, and he was trying to deflect to his guys. But I bring up this number. He's 10 of 21 from beyond 50 since the start of the 2022 season. And the 2022 season was the first season for Jordan Stout as the punter and the holder in Baltimore. And the year before was the year they switched from Morgan Cox and allowed him to move on to Tennessee and brought in a new long snapper. Is there any thing to be said about, we all remember the legend of the Wolfpack in Baltimore and that triumvirate. Is there anything to be said for perhaps there is something about the changes that have been made throughout the operation that might be somehow impactful to Justin Tucker?
It's a good question, and it's insightful. When those three were together before they started to get broken up, I did a segment on CBS when I did one of the Baltimore games in Baltimore, and I kind of broke down and we showed in super slow-mo how accurate, how good the snap was, how accurate the hold was, how he got it down really quick, laces perfect when he caught it, so Justin could see it for a long time. Because when you can see the ball there, it's not moving, you get it and you quickly put it down, and the ball is just set there for you. It allows you to be really confident and aggressive through the ball. And when the ball's moving around or you're turning the laces, especially on a 50-yard field goal, you're not going to be as confident and aggressive through it when it's moving, when they're having to adjust it, when they're having to turn the laces. So there is something to that. I just know this particular staff, and I use it all the time when I'm talking to college kids. I use Baltimore as an example. Mm-hmm. They work so hard, and they are so specific on what they want on that field goal operation that I don't think that that's the issue. I think Justin probably would say that as well, even when he wasn't just protecting his guys, that he would tell you, hey, they do a great job. I got to make the kicks. I know how hard they work, all three of them, the snapper, the holder, and the kicker.
It doesn't seem like he's lost the distance. I think that's the part to me that the reason why I'm not panicked, Jay, is because it's not like all these kicks are coming up short. Like he can't possibly kick from 56 any longer. These kicks have had the distance. They just haven't been on target. What is the easiest explanation for those of us that will never in our life be able to dream of kicking anything that far? What is the easiest explanation you can give as to why kicks aren't on target from that distance, other than just, hey, it's really hard to do this. There's only a certain percentage of people in the world that are capable of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to look, are they outside, right? What kind of footing is it? Is it grass? Because when you're on grass and you're outside, you add in exterior elements, because if your foot sinks in a little bit on a kick like that, a little bit of a percentage off on your angle gets maximized at that distance. Because, if I'm 2% off, but it goes 60 yards, that 2% continues to grow as it gets closer and closer to the upright. So you just have to be so precise. So if your foot sinks in a little bit on that turf, if the wind does something that you didn't think it was going to do and it blows it a different way and you catch a gust, there's all kinds of things that have an impact on that. But I was looking at Matt Prater just now, and Matt is the best of all time over. He's kicked the most field goals over 50. He's 40 years old, still making them.
Yeah.
And he had a couple years ago, he had 2 seasons in a row, where he missed 6 kicks over 50. And he just didn't do well, and then he comes back and then he goes 9 for 12 over 50, last year and kicks excellent. And you just go through some of those, you miss some kicks that, maybe my technique wasn't perfect, which it has to be from that range, or you could have exterior factors. And like I said, I have complete confidence in Justin.
Let me ask it this way, because you brought something up about the way that the Chiefs handled Harrison Butker on Sunday, and I saw the same thing that you did, where I was like, wow, really? You're just okay. And it worked out for them. Is there a point at which the Ravens have to think about that? Like that if it's 3rd and 10 from the 38-yard line, they got to say to themselves, hey, maybe we don't throw the ball to the sticks right now. Maybe we just try to prioritize getting 7 yards. Like, are we at that point where they have to think about it as far as the struggles that Justin Tucker has had, or did they keep operating like, no, this is Justin Tucker that we're talking about. It's only a matter of time. We don't change anything about the way that we handle our business because he's missed some kicks.
So the difference between, a 55-yard field goal and a 40-yard field goal is probably 70% on your best kickers to 90%.
Right.
So I would always be thinking about that. I would always be thinking about, in a situation where you have a game winner, I'd be thinking about, can I get it to the 40-yard field goal? Because you feel really confident about a guy at 40 yards, even Justin Tucker. The more you can do to help a guy, the better in that situation.
Man, I really didn't believe we were going to have this conversation, Jay. I can't believe.
Well, we should be, but I jumped on with you anyways.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Can you do me this favor? Is it possible that, like, if there's a few more, if you get to a point where you genuinely do find yourself saying, okay, I'm concerned, would you send us a text then? And then we.
I will do that, but don't expect.
Right. Hey, if I could, just because you brought it up a minute ago, there's so much noise, and I'm sure you know this about Colorado. Can you tell us what your experience has been like as a football dad being around the Colorado program?
It's been an experience, watching it, and seeing all the shows and all that kind of stuff, and it's just hard as a dad, when you're playing and you're out there kicking, that's easy. It's much harder on my wife and family members watching. Now flipping it and putting me on the side where I'm the dad watching my son and wanting the best for him and wanting him to make everything, and then trying to give him words of advice when things don't go right and you miss a kick or you're not getting the opportunity, whatever the case may be, just trying to be there to support him, love him. It's hard sitting in the stands, I tell you. I'd much rather be out there kicking.
I understand that, right? Like, you can control that one. It's on you. You can't control it otherwise. At Jay Feely is, of course, how you follow him. And, Jay, what's next up on the docket for you?
I'll be in Colorado this weekend. I have the weekend off from CBS,
nice.
So my wife and I are going up to watch Baylor, Colorado, and watch that game and hope the Bucs get a big win and watch my son play. And then next week I have the Raiders, who just beat your Ravens. I got the Browns-Raiders next week.
We don't like talking about it. Jay, really appreciate it, man. Thank you
That's
for taking.
That's going to be a top 5 defense in the NFL. They're good, the Raiders.
Wow, top 5. Look, Max Crosby is unbelievable. We got our own problems in Baltimore. We'll talk about that some other time. Jay, thank you, dude. We really appreciate you doing this, man.
My pleasure. Good to talk to you. Take care.
Jay Feely, former NFL kicker, now with CBS. He says we should calm down. Says he's not worried. I guess I would say, like, worried is probably the wrong word, right? Like I don't know that I would say worried is how I feel, but it's context, right? Like the context isn't decent NFL kicker. Like the context isn't are you cutting the guy? The context is he the most dangerous weapon that we have ever known? And at the moment, he's not, which doesn't mean that he might not have a massive game here at some point soon, and then we'll say, hey, look, that's Justin Tucker. We remember him. I don't know. But appreciate Jay Feely taking the time for us. And it is interesting to me that like the struggles kind of seem to correlate with the point at which the Wolfpack was dissolved. Like that part of it is interesting to me. And I tried asking a few people, like, does the operation look clean? And they're like, yeah, the operation looks clean. But you just wonder if there was almost a comfort thing there to those guys. Like, they had been together for so long. They were so comfortable with each other. They were going to lunch together every Friday that just changing the operation has had an impact on Justin Tucker somehow. I don't know. I don't have those answers. Not the smartest man on the face of the planet. Hey, Stan, Ross, and Luke got together yesterday. And if you missed it, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, PressBoxOnline.com/video. They try to break down what it'll take for the Orioles to salvage this in the final 2 weeks of the season going towards the playoffs. Is it also, by the way, it was brought up to me too, like the thought that the Orioles, even if they're going to be a wild card, the significance of holding on to the first wild card spot, which now they're only, 2 games in front of the Royals for the first wild card spot? And that's the difference in whether you host that series. Because remember, they don't go road and home for the wild card series. You either host all 3 games or you're on the road for all 3 games if needed.
2.5 up.
2.5. Did the Royals play last night? Is that what it was?
I was so out of it. They did. They lost. Yeah. They lost to the surging Tigers.
All of a sudden. The Orioles got to play them. They got 3 more against the Tigers coming up this weekend. But yeah, that's significant. And the Tigers would have thrown one of their real pitchers last night, right?
They won 7-6. So okay. Not that the pitcher really mattered, right. But I think Scooble's tonight.
Okay.
They threw Reese Olson, and he got lit up.
So then Scooble would be in line to start Sunday in Baltimore, right? If he's tonight.
Let's see if they have probables out. I missed the game for today.
Wait, if he starts tonight and they only play 3 in this
they're
series,
saying Casey Mize tonight.
Did they just cut back on Scooble? Is that
maybe
what the story is?
So Scooble's going to pitch tomorrow,
tomorrow. Then the Orioles would probably miss him.
Yeah.
Not that it makes a difference right now who they're facing.
I don't want to see what's his face, the Burke or whatever.
Yeah.
Bunter.
Oh, that guy. I was thinking of the guy that was the opener for the 2 games. What was it, Biersky? Give me a Biersky, bro.
The guy that went 7 innings without a.
Yeah, he did. That happened. Yay. Anyway, the moral of the story being, it still is important to hold on, if you can, to the first wild card spot so you host that series instead of having to go on the road for that series. So that part is relevant. And if you missed that show, check it out right now. Stan, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, talking about what it's going to take for the Birds to hang on. When we come back in, we're going to talk about Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Everybody's hurt. Debo's hurt. Now Cooper Kupp's hurt. A.J. Brown's hurt. Isaiah Pacheco's hurt. Everybody's hurt. I don't even know who the starting running back is in Cleveland because I think Dante Foreman was the starter over the weekend. Are you picking up Dante Foreman? I don't know, man. And I'm gonna have to go heavy this week. I feel like I gotta be all over the waiver wire. It's Quentin Johnson. We'll talk about all that. Our guy Joe Serpico joins us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
At A.J. Michaels Heating and Cooling, you get maximum value for your investment. You'll save 50% in heating costs, get $6,000 in rebates, and a no-interest energy loan. That's value. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit MarylandFivestar.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens star safety Kyle Hamilton, detailing his path from growing up the son of a basketball player to choosing football, being overlooked in the draft, and turning into a defensive unicorn as a playmaking Swiss Army knife in the NFL. Also inside, meet college football players from all of the area's D1 programs and some of the area's college soccer standouts as well. PressBox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
You know, guys, I'm starting to think that the musician, the rapper Sean P. Diddy Combs might not be the great guy, civil servant, wonderful role model that we've always assumed that he was. I'm just starting to think there's a possibility that maybe we might have been wrong about that over the years. Which
what could possibly give you that?
It's a hunch that I have. I don't want to say too much at this point, right? But it's a weird feeling that I've got that maybe that guy isn't the high-level human being that we've always held him up to be. So shocking, man. Like, you know, sometimes all of our heroes fall, you know? That's the way that it works sometimes.
He was one of your heroes?
I mean, it's going to be a real problem. We had trivia last night, and
he came up?
No. There's this weird bit at trivia, I swear to God, where like every other week, the host of trivia, who's playing the music during this, plays the Ignition remix by R. Kelly, and every time she does it, there's like an audible noise from our table, like, really? We're still doing this? And it sucks because, trust me, I love that song as much as anybody loved that song. But, like, it doesn't take a lot for me to say, like, maybe we don't bump that anymore. Maybe we moved on from the Ignition remix. Now this is going to be really personal for me because there are I don't know that there are 10 songs that I've cared about in my life more than I've cared about Mo Money, Mo Problems. It's one of my everybody's known. Every producer we've had if you want to get me going again, just hit Mo Money, Mo Problems. And my energy's right back, and I'm happy, and everything's good. This one's going to be a test for me, dog. Like, this is going to be a challenge. My ability to put it to the side. My ability to say, nope, we can't anymore. And I know everybody's going to say, you got to be able to separate the art from the artist. I guess. I don't know, man. Like, if I hit play on Spotify, somebody's profiting off of that. I get it. It's only like a millionth of a penny. But still, it feels like the smallest thing that we should be willing to do is to stop letting terrible people profit off of things. And I don't know. It's a conversation that's far deeper than what I'm going to do on this show today, but still, that one will be quite the test for your boy. That'll be quite the test moving forward. Yikes. All right. It is Tuesday. And, of course, every Tuesday, we start to look ahead to Waiver-Wire Wednesday here on GCR. And this one is shaping up to be quite the active Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Our friend Joe Serpico is going to join us every time we chat with Joe Serpico here on GCR. It's brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Griffin, you want to remind everybody what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel?
Yes, every Sunday, or at least every time that the Baltimore or Washington football teams have a home game, you will have a chance to get $7 in free slot play for every touchdown scored. At Live Rewards members will be receiving free $7 in slot play every time that Baltimore or Washington scores a touchdown during home games. You must have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine and be actively playing. And then once they score, you get that slot play, and it is valid for slot play only at Arundel Mills. You must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And next Thursday night, that would be the 26th, I'm going to be down at Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel with Joe Serpico, as he's going to be offering you personalized fantasy football advice. You're going to be able to just walk right up to him, hand him your phone, here's what my team looks like, fix it for me. And he'll look through that. You can show him the rest of your league, trade options, what you should be targeting, all sorts of different ideas. Joe Serpico is with us now here on GCR. Joe, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Well, I'm hanging in there. I'm doing a lot better than a lot of these guys around the league. Let's just say that. I saw this morning there is an actual team owner out there whose team consists of Jordan Love, Kenneth Walker, Raheem Mostert, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, and David Njoku. It's like, oh my goodness. And that's totally plausible. We're not including CMC, Nakua, Pacheco, Ingram.
I will tell you, I had this happen to me in one of my leagues this weekend where like 3 different times between Friday and Sunday, I looked and I saw that my projected total had dipped down by 10 points. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I look up and I say, oh, Kenneth Walker's out. Awesome. Neat. So glad to see that. And then I fix that. I put somebody else in the lineup. And then I look again like 6 hours later, and my projected total is dipped by another 50. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then it's, I had Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, and Kenneth Walker in one particular lineup last week, and ended up starting Austin Eckler and Greg Dortch in that league. Ooh. Yeah, that didn't go so well for me, as you would imagine. I fell short of 80 points. I didn't even hit the 80 mark in that league. So I'm going to need some help. Let's talk about what could be out there that could help me. Let's begin in the Kansas City backfield. Why is it that Carson Steele is being viewed as a better pickup than Samaje Perine is at this point?
Comes down to simple usage. Steele saw 7 carries, and that was before, Pacheco got this significant injury, as opposed to Perine was relegated to strictly just passing down duties, and that was more once Pacheco was banged up. So Carson Steele looks to have the early down work, and more importantly, will be the goal line back. That is the key for Kansas City's offense there. Carson Steele is probably your priority pickup for this week. Now, with that said, I'm a little hesitant to go overboard in getting him too, just because we already heard of rumors that Kareem Hunt has been brought in for a workout. Now, even if they sign Hunt this week, there's almost no chance that he takes the field this week. So it is Steele's job for at least this weekend. But then the other guy to keep in mind is they still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the roster, and while he is on injured reserve, it's not necessarily an injury. I believe the reason why he's on there is for PTSD. So, maybe he's ready to come off of the injured reserve after 4 weeks. So, yeah, you absolutely want to go get Steele, at least for these next 2 weeks. It sounds like it's definitely his job. But I'm not going all in on him. I'm probably spending around 15-20% of my fab, as opposed to if we knew he was the guy. Let's say, another situation like, Braylon Allen was to take over for an injured Breece Hall, I would go all in on him. Let's say, over 50% of my fab.
So is that for Pacheco owners, or is that for anyone that you'd be willing to pay up to 15% of your fab?
As somebody who has gone 0 RB in one league, I'm going 15% at Carson Steele. At least give me somebody for at least those couple weeks, because that's kind of the name of the game when you go 0 RB. You're just kind of plug and play guys when you can. In the same league I'm talking about, I had to start Zach Charbonnet over the weekend, and then next week it will be another guy. So that's kind of how that goes when you're going with 0 RB. So yeah, 15-20% if you need a guy for the next 2 weeks.
You brought up Braylon Allen. I assume that we're not going too heavy on Braylon Allen. Yes, he had a monster game, but he's still very clearly not the guy. That does that feel like is that a waiver claim? Is that somebody you're spending fab on, or is that more like, hey, if he's still around on Thursday, maybe somebody worth stashing on your roster?
If you're a Breece Hall owner, I'm definitely maybe a buck or two, nothing too crazy, just to get him on your roster, ensure that you do. But no, he's more of a guy that, you're trying to pick up on Thursday, and then he is one of the very true few handcuffs that we have around the league right now that that if something was to happen, that he is going to be the bona fide guy afterwards.
What do we make of the situation in Cleveland? Everybody, Jerome Ford has been the guy, but all of a sudden this week, Deontay Foreman was the starter. Is there anything to be made of it, or are you still confident that Jerome Ford will continue to be the guy until Nick Chubb comes back?
Yeah, that kind of threw a real monkey wrench into everything just because Foreman only played one snap in week 1. So it doesn't make sense that all of a sudden now he got more carries than Ford. And the thing that you got to keep in mind is a lot of that work did come once Pierre Strong got banged up. So they were kind of shifted roles a bit. Ford kind of had to take a little bit more of the passing duties. And then I think that's probably why Foreman got more of the rushing opportunities. So is that something to see moving forward? I guess, yes. If the Strong is going to be out for a little bit of time, which I would have to do a little bit more research on if that's the case. But Foreman has always been somebody every single year. He's almost never drafted, but plays a factor in fantasy. So I'm not spending any fab on him. But if he's somebody that's there on Thursday, I'm definitely snagging him and kind of seeing how that situation plays out.
We're chatting with Joe Serpico, Press Box Fantasy Football Analyst, as we're getting ready for Waiver-Wire Wednesday. The other guy who had a monster game this weekend is Quentin Johnston. Where are we? Is this a thing now? Are we still afraid that next week he's not going to be able to catch the football? What do we do about Quentin Johnston?
Well, I think the thing with him dropping the ball is just always going to be something with him. But the reason why you want him in fantasy-wise is he's getting the most targets on the team. He's most targeted, most receptions, most receiving yards, and most touchdowns so far. And not just that, he's playing more snaps than any of the other receivers. Played 48 snaps this weekend, 14 more than any of the other guys out there. So he looks to be the number one receiver in that offense. Now, Justin Herbert hasn't thrown for more than 150 yards in both of those 2 games so far. And that could be partially because of the injury, but we also know that that's kind of how they want that offense to kind of operate. But if kind of like we talked about in the offseason, somebody's got to catch passes out there. And I was kind of saying it's either going to be Josh Palmer or it's going to be Quentin Johnston. After 2 weeks, it looks like it's Johnston.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm all of a sudden, are you putting in fab money for him?
Depending on your receiver situation, I'm not going, again, overboard, maybe a couple dollars to add him to your team if you need a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4.
If you're like a Cooper Kupp or a Puka Nakua or an A.J. Brown owner, for example.
If you're one of those guys and need somebody to fill in this week, absolutely, you kind of got, you got to almost in a situation you have to. I would much rather have, let's say, a Quentin Johnston over, somebody even last night had a decent game, was like a Darnell Mooney or some of these. Let's face it, I'd rather have them over the number 2 and number 3 that's about to be with the Rams. And we haven't talked about Demarcus Robinson, but he kind of shoots up your board right now just because he's the de facto number 1 with the injuries to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua.
I hear you. I'm still struggling with the idea of being committed to Demarcus Robinson, right? I am still struggling with that.
Well, that's more because of we saw how he played when he was here in Baltimore, but those couple weeks last year where he was in that same role, he was wide receiver 12. I believe it was weeks 13 through 17 last year. And anybody who's kind of tied to Matthew Stafford puts up points. So with him being the number 1 guy there, again, not going crazy to add him to my team, not going overboard on the fab, but he is somebody you do want to spend fab on, especially if you are an owner of one of his teammates.
If you're in this predicament at wide receiver, rank these 3 guys for me and the priority that you would have for them, whether they're available or starting. Demarcus Robinson, Quentin Johnston, Jawan Jennings.
Quentin Johnson would be number one. I think I'm going to go Robinson, then Jennings.
Okay.
And the reason being just Matthew Stafford, like I kind of said, he kind of is more of a per passer. They're going to chuck it a bunch, as opposed to the 49ers are going to be a little bit more balanced. I think we're going to see them run even more now that they've lost Deebo Samuel for some time.
I picked up Derek Carr in our Cockamamie League because we had to have two quarterbacks, and my other options were Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones, so hell, why not pick up Derek Carr? That was the only win that I got in fantasy football last week. The only league where I recorded a win was our Cockamamie League because I picked up Derek Carr. Are we at the point where Derek Carr needs to be considered in non-Cockamamie leagues?
I'm not ready to go that far yet. He is the only quarterback that's finished in the top 5 the first 2 weeks. Sits right now as quarterback 2. And he does have a nice, juicy matchup this week with the Eagles' very suspect pass defense. But I'm not ready to say he's a top 12 quarterback just yet. There's a few, but he's getting close. Let's put it this way. He's hovering around 15, 16, 17. So, yeah, let's say in a Superflex league, he's a great guy to have. But I'm not ready to make him a starter just yet in your traditional 12-team league.
In my league where I have Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff as my 2 quarterbacks, is there some world where I'm thinking about Derek Carr?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I've kind of talked about how much I like Jared Goff this year. I know he hasn't gotten off to the fast start that I've been expecting, but do I want to put him over Matthew Stafford? That's a great question. I think I would have to say, as of right now, yes, and that has more to do with the fact that Stafford's missing his top 2 options.
Yeah. This is fun. This is a good time. I'm having fun now. What about, do we even need to utter the name Sam Darnold here?
I mean, if you are truly desperate, like I am in one league, I am a Bryce Young owner in one league.
Ooh.
So, and he just got the bench, so I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. Actually, that's in our press box league here, so I need to figure out my 3rd quarterback situation. So if Sam Darnold is available, he's somebody I might be snatching up. But I have a feeling he's not.
And
if he's one of those guys that's available and you're truly in a pinch, yeah, absolutely add him. He looks formidable, and I think I saw somebody tweeted out yesterday, which I thought was kind of funny. Whenever a quarterback leaves the Jets, they actually look okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's never going to be like the best starter ever, but at least he's going to be formidable for the Vikings this year.
Let me go back to a second. That list of receivers that I had given you, add Alec Pierce. Where does Alec Pierce go into that fold of Robinson, Johnston, and Jennings?
He's at the bottom of that list.
Okay.
I think he's just been more of the beneficiary of the additional playing time. And I think when Josh Downs gets back, things are going to kind of get readjusted right now. Now they have Donnie Mitchell kind of working the slot. That's typically where Josh Downs works. I think once Downs is back, that'll put Mitchell into where Pierce has been, and Pierce will be the guy that's going to take the field a lot less.
Is there any I happen to notice that Chuba Hubbard was available in one of the leagues that I'm in. Should I be racing to jump on? What? Yeah. Should I be racing to grab him, or should I be part of this, admittedly, is me saying Carolina is such a disaster that, is it even worth putting Chuba Hubbard on my roster?
Well, I'm of the belief now that maybe because Andy Dalton's under center, that offense might wake up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm hoping that's the case as a Deontay Johnson owner. That's starting to get a little concerning how high I drafted him and just how bad that's been to start the season. But, yeah, if Chuba Hubbard's available, that's a guy I've noticed it too. He's available in another one of my leagues too, and I'm just eyeing him up. He's definitely the starting running back there, so it's hard to pass up on him now. How much longer is he the starting running back there? Do you really want a running back that hardly ever is probably going to find the end zone just because of how dreadful that offense has been? But at the same time, he's somebody you definitely have to have rostered. So if he is available, yes, you absolutely have to snatch him up.
All right. Go ahead, Griffin.
What about how do you look at the Houston backfield with Joe Mixon's ankle injury? Are we picking up Cam Akers or Damian Pierce or both?
Cam Akers looks to be the guy. Well, and it's kind of hard to say because Damian Pierce has been banged up. But at least after this week, it looks like Cam Akers is the next guy up for them. So if Mixon does miss some time, yeah, Cam Akers is the guy to grab in that situation.
How about Hunter Henry? How hard should we be going in on him, maybe fab-wise, at tight end?
Yeah, he's going to be flirting around tight end 12 for me, which is right around, the end there. So, yeah, I'm definitely spending a little bit of fab on him, depending on your situation. Now, if you are somebody who, like me on Sunday morning was like, what the heck happened to Evan Ingram? He's a guy that you can consider there. And the reason being for that is New England's receivers, they're rolling everybody out there on every random play. So you don't know who's going to be in there on any given play. Now, the one guy who is always out there, Hunter Henry. You got the 12 targets this week, eight receptions. The rest of the team had 7 receptions total. So Henry's a guy that's just going to be the beneficiary of, a not so good offense that's just going to check it down a lot and doesn't really have a number one receiver. So let's just say that Henry is the number one receiver.
All right. Anything else that we need to know about or should be thinking about for this week?
If you're really looking for a flyer, and that's the true flyer, Isaac, I'm going to butcher his name, Guriendo is the latest 49ers handcuff to keep an eye on, just because it doesn't seem like it matters who Kyle Shanahan puts back there, they're going to produce. So if, say, something were to happen to Jordan Mason, that's the next man up for the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't have the luxury of being able to carry the handcuffs at this moment because my team has too many injuries for me to be wasting spots on anyone besides somebody that could be helpful immediately. That's just the reality of my situation. All right, Joe Serpico, at Joe Serp on Twitter. PressBoxOnline.com is where you see all of his stuff. And again, 1 week from Thursday night, next Thursday night, come hang out with Joe and I, Dallas, New York. I'll be giving away great prizes. Joe will be giving away knowledge. He will be giving away the ability for you to dominate your league by just taking it over. You're just literally handing him your phone, and you're saying, Joe, fix this. And he's going to do it for you. He's going to go through and say, here's what I would do, here's what I would do, here's you could target in a trade. He's going to solve single-handedly all of your fantasy football problems. And I can't wait to do that. That'll be next Thursday, the 26th. We will be at Live Casino and Hotel, Inside Sports and Social. Come hang out with us for that. Joe Serpico, appreciate you, bud. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Absolutely, guys. Good luck.
Joe Serpico, Pressbox Fantasy Football. I swear to God, I think I put in 5 waiver claims in one league this week. Everybody's hurt. Everybody. You mentioned Evan Ingram. Yeah, waking up on Sunday morning like, what? What? By the way, real glad that I dropped Evan Ingram to pick up Jawan Johnson. Because that's the league I play in where there's no bench. Like, they just want everybody to constantly be available. They want the free agent market to be robust. That's the league where Chuba Hubbard's available. Hate it here. But yeah, everybody's banged up. It sucks. Hey, County Sports Zone, you know it doesn't suck? County Sports Zone. Because County Sports Zone is where if you are looking for the latest, or if you just want to be a better, more well-rounded local sports fan, you would have had a breakdown of the huge game that Malik Washington had for Archbishop Spalding against McDonough on Friday night. You can get it by going to countysports.zone, which is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Scores, schedules, rankings, news updates for every team, every school, every sport, every level, everywhere throughout the state. It is all available. countysports.zone, which is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Go check it out. Find out everything you could possibly need to know about local high school sports. We continue along here on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. We're going to talk later on this hour with Steve Wyche from NFL Network, who is in town to see the Ravens on Sunday. But right now, we're going to get into some Orioles conversation. Can this be salvaged? That is the question. Our next guest, of course, a man that you hear on 105.7 The Fan as part of their Baltimore Baseball Tonight coverage. You know him from the Baseball Warehouse. You know him from the League of Dreams. He's an Orioles Hall of Famer. He is our friend, Mr. Mike Bordick, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Bordy, it's Glenn. I say it's always good to catch up. Today, it doesn't feel like it's good to be talking about the Baltimore Orioles, but I still appreciate you nonetheless. Thanks for hopping on with us, pal. Oh.
Absolutely, Glenn. Yeah, it was a tough weekend, wasn't it? Sports for the Baltimore fans. Wow.
Yuck. Just a brutal, brutal weekend. Bordy, they're running out of time, right? Like, is there still reason to be optimistic that this can be solved before the season is over? Or have we reached the point where, like, yeah, we kind of have our answer. It just fell apart, and that's the way it is. And they'll make the playoffs because they'll make the playoffs. But there's just no reason anymore to believe that things can change.
Come on, man! You can't have that kind of attitude.
But is it
coming down to the final 2 weeks of the season? And they're guaranteed to get. I mean, they're almost guaranteed to get in to the playoffs. Listen. Yeah, every team is hoping that they can get hot going into the playoffs, at least feel a little bit better. There are a lot of different ways, obviously, to look at this. And from a personal standpoint, I've been fortunate enough to play in a couple postseasons. And I remember one time with the Oakland A's in '92, we backed in. The Milwaukee Brewers ended up like having to lose a game for us to get in. So it was one of those type of things. So it always comes down to the wire. But the point is, when the regular season ends, it's a whole new season. I think the guys are looking forward to that. I know if I was Brandon Hyde, I would say, listen, man, this is it. This is what we've played for. We can forget about the 162-day grind that we just went through, all the ups and downs. You got to believe in yourselves and pick up your teammates, and let's make a run at this the best we can. And that's kind of it. And hopefully they get on a run and, keep getting some pieces back. Ideally, winning the East, I think, would be huge for this team to get healthier to get into the postseason. But you got to be optimistic, man, because they're going to make it in the postseason, and then it's, who knows? I mean, look, Texas won last year. They won the World Series, walked right through it.
That is true.
I believe the Orioles have that kind of capability too.
Boy, I hope you're right about that. But, Bordy, I am nervous because it has been a mess. Let's cover a couple of things.
They've been terrible.
Yeah, terrible. Exactly.
They've been terrible. Yeah, so it's hard, right, to even be that optimistic. But certainly some things have to change here in the next 2 weeks. Tighter defense, that has to improve. Yeah. Obviously, getting some big hits, runners with scoring position, and, run the bases well. But I think defense is going to be crucial. Their pitching has been surprisingly really well, especially the last week, but they just haven't been able to put any runs across the board.
I don't want to pile on Jackson Holliday because he's a kid, and I think Jackson Holliday is going to be a heck of a baseball player, but he's not been a heck of a baseball player this season in Baltimore. And I also don't think that Livan Soto is an answer, but are we at the point now where the Orioles kind of have no choice but to keep running Livan Soto out there every day as long as he can be productive? Because it just seemed like it got to a point where it's one thing if it's just the offense or if it's just the defense, but everything seemed to be amiss with Jackson Holliday the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't, Jackson Holliday shouldn't be discouraged about it, but, he's got to be realistic. This team needs to make it or wants to make it to the postseason and make a run. So Brandon Hyde as a manager, it's one thing to say, listen, we got to try to develop our young players and unfortunately develop them at the major league level, but it can only go so far. I mean, you got to go with the hot hand right now. I think, nobody's really tearing the cover off the ball, but certainly Soto doesn't look as overmatched, I guess, as young Jackson Holliday does. And even, defensively, there have been some plays that, Jackson Holliday has made, and we've talked about here recently. I think he's gotten a little bit better with his internal clock as far as the urgency of making plays. But, the other night in Boston, there was a chopper up the middle. He didn't even get his glove on the ball. And thank goodness his shin was there, or that could have been a whole different ball game. So, I think Brandon Hyde understands or knows the importance of defense. Erstad, everybody was clamoring, wanting him to be the starting outfield and get at bats and stuff. But defensively, you just got to trust guys enough to keep them out there and, know that the ball will find you if you're, susceptible. And it shows up, and it has shown up here recently too, because the Orioles defense just hasn't been clean enough for this team.
I guess I bring that up. We got to talk about first base too, right? Ryan O'Hearn, it's sort of the same conversation where as good as he was earlier in the season, since he's kind of been pressed into this larger duty of late, the struggles have been both, right? It's been offensive struggles. And again, like the other, I get that's a difficult pick to make on the throw over from Rivera, but I would think that a major league first baseman has to make that pick, particularly with a runner on third base that's about to come around and score a tying run and 2 outs in the inning. You mentioned Kjerstad's back. Is it possible that somehow we see a little bit less of Ryan O'Hearn? I don't know what that looks like until Ryan Mountcastle returns, but do you let Santander play first base a little bit? Do you give Mayo a little bit more of a look at first base? It just feels like right now it can't just be continuing to run out Ryan O'Hearn every day.
I agree, man. Listen, we all love O'Hearn, but I think in his role, right?
Yeah.
And I think some guys just get exposed. And there's a reason why O'Hearn wasn't the frontline first baseman in Kansas City. And, I think the Orioles found the proper role for him. They built his confidence. They used him sparingly defensively. But you got, finding ways to keep his bat in there, against right-handed pitching. And playing a bulk of games over at first base, I think, you do. You get exposed. The speed of the game shows up, the inability to make those in-game adjustments. And there have been some hard-hit balls down there for sure, but, man, it's just clanking off that glove and not making some picks. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Santander gets over there. I wouldn't be surprised if Kjerstad's taking ground balls over there. And this thing, these guys can't take it personally. But the reality is Mountcastle probably isn't coming back.
Right.
You're
running out of time, yes.
And you realize how much you miss that, too.
Oh.
Okay, we could scratch our heads sometimes offensively, the ups and downs. But defensively, Mountcastle's really solid over there. He gets his nose in there. He works hard. He's a former shortstop that can move a little bit better than most. And, I know the infielders miss him, but there's another piece that, has been missing. So, yeah, we are the team right now that's hoping we can get a little bit healthier here down the stretch, and hopefully it's not too late where these guys haven't been able to build up some rhythm and timing back into the ball game.
Let me ask this, because I will acknowledge, Mike, that this is not something they have to do, but I have always thought that the plan for this offseason would be to try to trade Ryan Mountcastle and clear first base, because that's going to have to be where Kobe Mayo plays. He's just not going to be a third baseman at the major league level, and if he's going to be here, he's got to be in the lineup. I've always made that assumption. So I'll ask this twofold. Should they be determinedly trying to have Kobe Mayo play first base right now because he's going to be the guy next year? Or do they reconsider, is the value of what Ryan Mountcastle brings defensively make you reconsider that and say, look, maybe you do hold on to him until he hits free agency the following year?
Listen, the depth of this organization has been exposed, I think.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Okay, so the Orioles have had some injuries to some of their frontline players, obviously. But now we've had to dip down into the minor leagues, and we've had to try to test the free agent market and, try to land some pieces because there aren't enough guys in the minor leagues to fill in. And every year before the start of a season, we talk about it isn't your starting, roster, 25 guys that you break camp with. The whole organization gets tested. And even though the Orioles are ranked number one for a few years in a row, all their prospects are up here now, and there's nobody to fill in if something happens to the prospects. So, that's something that has to be looked at as far as organizational depth. Maybe they pulled the trigger too soon on bringing guys up. My gosh, 101 wins last year was pretty impressive. They were probably the luckiest, most fortunate team to not have injuries, although the loss of Batista there that last month, I think, really got them.
Right.
Listen, I know I'm going on another different tangent.
I get it.
There's so many things involved, right, with winning and losing, and obviously I just think the depth isn't quite there, but you're seeing this across the board in baseball. Everybody's just trying to keep their head above water that's why I think the Orioles are all right with let's stay optimistic, get Westberg back, get a Cologne back in the bullpen. That's all I'm hoping for, man. And then let's go and let Westberg do his thing, and hopefully that kind of settles this offense down. At least get another clutch bat or a clutch bat in the lineup.
It'd be nice to add Grayson Rodriguez's name to that list. I have no idea.
That would be nice too. But golly, are we running out of time there too? You know what I mean?
Bordy, that's where I'm at. Let me present this question in both sides. If Grayson Rodriguez is available and if he's not available, presuming the Orioles are in a 3-game wildcard series, what would who would be your 3 starters, and in what order for that 3-game wildcard series?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. But you gotta obviously have Corbin Burns number 1, Eflin number 2, and then I think you kind of have fun with really what the postseason's all about anyway. I think bullpens get tested, so the ability to work your bullpen correctly, you could have, Suarez and Kramer be a 1-2 punch or a piggyback tandem. My thinking, too, is if Grayson Rodriguez is throwing and he's healthy but not stretched out to be a starter, then he should be a bullpen piece, at least for an inning or two, to get another one of those electric arms, and you don't want to put him in an potentially unhealthy situation. But if he's healthy enough to rehab and try to work back to be a starter, he can certainly get some work in out of the bullpen and maybe still keep working on that to go to the next round or maybe the round after that.
Yeah, I can understand that thought process. I think a lot of people think he could be like a weapon out of the bullpen.
Definitely.
But are you confident enough in the starters that if you do get into a scenario where you need 4 starters in a playoff series, and I hope that's the case, are you confident in, whether that's Suarez, Dean Kramer, are you confident in that guy being a better option than Rodriguez at that point?
I'm not, listen, what I'm confident in is this, that in the postseason, bullpens get pulled on sooner than I've ever seen. Manager will take a starter, and all of a sudden in the second inning, if he senses that he doesn't have the command, he'll go right to the bullpen, because every inning is like high leverage, right? You don't want to give them a run. You don't want to all of a sudden put 2 guys on base and risk giving up a home run. So bullpens are just so important, and especially the middle guys. Now, you remember a few years ago when they were starting to use closers. Cleveland actually used Andrew Miller, like in the middle of a game. Everybody's like, what the heck is going on? And it just kind of changed the face of how a bullpen is used in the postseason. Every inning has to be won, and that's the way managers take that approach. So the ability to stack your bullpen correctly and maybe use some of these starters, for matchups. I mean, my gosh, I put Kramer split finger against any left-handed hitter in the game right now. So, that kind of thinking has to be a part of this, postseason push.
Bordick, my last one for you would be, and it goes back to how I kind of started this. I think it is the on-field play and the results that are as concerning, but I think the other side of it is something, I don't know, more emotional, more mental, that I think a lot of Orioles fans are just worried that this team isn't right, that there's just something deep-seated about this team, that it's just gone south and that there might not be a ton of fight left in this group. I present it to you because I know you're not a psychologist. I understand that you can't go in and break that down. But could they, if they somehow won 3 games, against San Francisco this week, is it just how baseball works, that that really is only about the actual results? And if somehow the results change and you win 4 games, all of a sudden everything about what we think today could be different by the time we get to Friday?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's how baseball is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird. Yeah, it's a roller coaster ride, no doubt about it. And if this team can find some sort of positivity, if they could reel off 3 wins, man, and then all of a sudden play the Tigers tough, they'll be in a much different headspace. And it won't take much, because it's just going to take a couple hits, because I think the pitching has been good enough. I just think it's going to take 1 or 2 hits, right? So, and then all of a sudden it's like they start believing in themselves again. and then Brandon Hyde can start, doing some things situationally, and it just gets like a more exciting team. So that's the hope, man. I mean, I think every team kind of hopes that, honestly, when they go into the postseason. And I'll give you one more example, man. I know that one of the teams I got to play for in the postseason was the Oakland A's. They were at the third year going straight to the World Series. They were the favorite to beat the Cincinnati Reds and got swept 4 games. You know what I mean? So this game, the Reds got hot, Jose Canseco got cold, and the A's offense got cold, and they got swept 4 games. So that's just how stuff happens in baseball. Guys get hot and cold, up and down. Hope is they get on the right foot heading into the postseason, and then take a deep breath, and it's like a rebirth again. Let's go, boys, and hopefully they can finish the season like they started it.
He is Mike Bordick. Mike, what can we talk up for you, my friend?
Holy Toledo. Well, I'm going to be down at Pickles tonight for the
Baltimore baseball tonight.
Baltimore baseball tonight, so that'll be fun. We'll try to get the fans engaged and make a nice push here down the road. Still giving lessons and doing some clinics with the Baseball Warehouse, and of course the League of Dreams is doing some great things. We had a great event over at the Maryland School for the Blind. I don't know if anybody has ever seen that place. Certainly that sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Seeing that place because it's the Maryland School for the Blind. But it is an unbelievable campus and unbelievable people that work there, and we have a really good relationship with them. So it's fun to be partnered with them, and we have another event here this Friday down at the Bear School, going down there to meet with them. So a lot of fun things going on. Thanks for asking.
That's awesome, man. Mike Bordick, always appreciate you, brother. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
Sounds good. Thanks.
It's Mike Bordick with us here on GCR. When we come back in, Steve Wyche, NFL Network. He was in town. He saw the Ravens on Sunday. More what the hell is going wrong. Just a fun, it's going to be a lot of this week. A lot of this here on Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at pressboxonline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Tuesday, October 1st at the Green Turtle in Towson. It's brought to you by Easy Pass and 1-800-GAMBLER.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you're looking at your old boiler with a jaundiced eye, it's time to call A.J. Michaels. You'll save 50% of your energy, get a $600 rebate, and an 18-month no-interest energy loan. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland, at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Hey. I got to tell you, so a couple things real quick. Oh, you know what? I didn't give you the sports questions from trivia last night. Number one, this one. When this player retired in 2003, he at the time he retired as the all-time leader in stolen bases, walks, and runs.
Okay, he retired in 2003.
Yes,
which we already know that we're very good about knowing when players retire.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that part of it. The other part of it should make it very, very easy.
He was number one all time.
Yes,
in walks,
stolen bases, and runs. Oh, my God.
Walks, so Barry Bonds.
Walks, stolen bases, and runs.
All right, then it's...
Oh, my God.
Then it's Reggie?
Oh, my God. What is happening?
Wait, so like these three things combined?
That one person retired as the all-time leader in walks, stolen bases, and... Oh, my God. Oh, God.
Ricky Henderson?
Thank God.
He retired in 2003? Okay, Ricky Henderson.
That's one of the most painful things I've ever experienced.
How am I supposed to know he retired in 2003?
Maybe when I tell you, don't focus on that.
Okay. I mean,
don't obsess over that. Instead, think about who would have retired. Oh, my. Yes, he was surpassed in walks by...
I was supposed to get the... You know, if we were doing trivia, I have like...
Oh, God.
At least a minute to think about it. And not
swear,
you in my
by
ear
the way,
going, no!
I swear to God.
No!
I swear to God.
No!
Wait, I didn't guess Barry Bonds.
I'm allowed to. Okay,
I didn't.
So
get,
all right.
You gave it as an answer.
From now on, I'm just gonna sit here like
you think
this
you? I'll give you a second to think through it. No.
Not Barry.
You can walk through it. You do that all the time, where you're like, I don't think it's this person. I don't think it's this person. I don't do that. You guessed. You said Barry.
I didn't lock it in as my final answer.
That's not the way this works. God, that was.
It's not Jeopardy, where
that was painful. That was really painful.
Be like, let's see.
What former New England Patriot is the subject of a 10-part miniseries debuting on FX today? Yeah.
Good for Gronk, I think.
Yeah, that's the one.
He deserves it.
1 point bonus for naming the college this player attended.
He went to Florida.
He most certainly did. He most certainly went to Florida.
No, Gronk went to Arizona State.
Gronk did not go to Arizona State.
He was a Wildcat?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Got the state right. I meant he went to Arizona State.
It's just the confidence by which you said that. It was so unnecessary. It wasn't something that I had asked. You just voluntarily.
He didn't go to Arizona State.
You chose to get something wrong.
You sure he went to Arizona State?
He did not go to Arizona State.
He went to Arizona State.
Todd Heap went to Arizona State. He was a tight end at
That's
Arizona State. Zach Miller was a tight end at Arizona State. I'm sure there have been other NFL tight ends from Arizona State that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head, but certainly Rob Gronkowski was not one of them. He went to Arizona. Is where he went. Oh, my. I'll give you this one because I know that your answer will piss me off. Oh, you got to call Steve Wyche. Okay. I'll save that.
My answer will piss
No, I'll save it. I'll save it for when you do a tidbit. Call Steve Wyche first because his time is more important than to participate in my silly reindeer games. So I'm not going to do that to him. But there was one that I, of course, went 4 for 4 on, but I can't wait to find out how Griffin does. It wasn't sports. It's local. It's local, and I can't wait. We second place last night, as we did not even venture a guess on the final. Apparently, there were 4 sequels to A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and they listed the names of the 4 sequels and then said the book sequels, and then said what was the name of the first in the series, and we were just like, we have no clue, so we didn't even bother to venture a guess for that and finished in second. All right, our next guest was in Baltimore on Sunday, and, maybe he can make sense of what's going on. He is, of course, NFL Network's chief national reporter. The Insiders airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock on NFL Network. He is our friend, Mr. Steve Wyche, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Steve, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Thank you, as always, for taking the time for us, man.
Oh, no, thanks for having me on, Glenn.
Can you make sense of what the heck is happening in Baltimore, Steve? This is supposed to be just a smooth ride. The problem this season was supposed to be what happens when they get back to the playoffs, not are they going to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah, they seem real disjointed because I've been at both of their games, and you saw how well they played late against the Chiefs when offensively they went to the hurry-up, right? They went to no huddle. They had a tempo. They had something going. And then they don't do that in the second game, and late there's nothing really going offensively. The offensive line's getting dominated. Yep. Defensively, all of a sudden, the Raiders scheme them up to get single coverage on Davante Adams on a couple big plays. I don't think it's anything necessarily systematic, but they really don't, on either side of the ball, to me, just seem to be in any type of comfortable flow. It just doesn't seem to be what it's probably going to be in 2 weeks from now, where they kind of get settled in.
So what you just said, I think, is important because I feel like the term is always correctable, right? Like, hey, there are teams that you panic about. Like, if you're in New York, the Giants, or you're in Charlotte today, I think it's full-on panic. But in Baltimore, is it more, yeah, they're 0-2, but they were in both games, and they have issues that are probably correctable given the personnel that they have.
Yeah, I mean, look, frankly, if that pass interference call doesn't happen,
yep,
right? Maybe they win the ball game. If Isaiah Likely
gets a toe down,
has a fallen foot,
yeah.
So it's not disastrous. Like you said, it's not like you're looking at a team like we got a significant injury to overcome or something like that, right? But it just doesn't seem to be flowing on either side of the ball, and I think part of it is they're trying to figure out how to get Derrick Henry involved in the run game. Here's a guy who didn't play with a ton of shotgun in Tennessee. He played behind a quarterback who played under center, right? They're trying to get that going. Defensively, Zach Orr is the new coordinator. Yes, he's been there, but again, you saw how the Raiders schemed them up late to get Davante, to get Davante in single coverage.
Yep.
Davante Adams in single coverage after he'd been doubled most of the game. So these are just little things that they've got to take care of. Now, I will say this. The one thing where they've got to get better is the offensive line play up front.
No question.
I mean, their guards and right tackle. I mean, you saw at Max Crosby how disruptive he was, and Christian Wilkins how disruptive they were. Same thing happening at Kansas City. That is something that has got to get fixed if they're going to be able to close out games.
Well, at least they're not like facing Micah Parsons this week or anything like that, Steve.
Oh, yeah, not that.
Nice respite from having to deal with these edge rushers. Steve Wyche, NFL Network, with us here on GCR. Steve, I bring this up. I hope you know, because we've talked enough, that I'm not a crazy person. I'm not like suggesting that John Harbaugh should be fired. But I asked this question, like, how much of this does fall on him? That, like, you knew the offensive line was going to be an issue. I think one of the things that we look at from Sunday and say, why did it take till the second half to start chipping against Max Crosby? Like, what? Was this really not something that you thought was going to be an issue going into the game? Like, why are you not chipping him when the plane landed in Baltimore, sending someone over to chip on Max Crosby? I feel like that. I feel like the timeout thing that continues, whether it was the two that were just kind of wasted in Kansas City because you didn't have the personnel on the field this week, 2 reviews, neither one of which was ever going to be overturned. That was both were correct calls. It wasn't even like it was, close. How much of this does fall on John Harbaugh to say, hey, yeah, like there are other problems, but they can't be compounded by coaching mistakes as well?
Yeah, I mean, he does have to shoulder some of the blame, and whether that's on him, whether that's somebody in the booth who's got to be like, don't do it,
Yeah.
right? You've got the guy, who's supposed to do that and help the coach out in those bang type of plays, especially when a team is trying to hurry up to the line of scrimmage. So you can't challenge it. Some of it has to blame on. I mean, look, some of it. I mean, let's not overlook this. I mean, their longtime and consistent offensive line coach passed away, like during training camp.
Yep.
I mean, these are things that you have to understand may factor into even the smallest detail. So again, I'm not trying to make excuses because these are professional football players who have got to go out and do their jobs. These are professional coaches. But again, this isn't something where you're looking at the Ravens and saying, uh-oh, even though the schedule is tough, you're still figuring out, again, like I said, how to incorporate Derrick Henry and the offensive lineman. I think this is something where they can get traction, and I don't think there's going to be a team that's going to run away right now in the AFC that's going to leave the Ravens so far and behind that they can't get back to postseason.
Steve, I want to revisit that in a second too because I do think that's relevant. It's hilarious to me. And it's not your network, right? But that somehow the Ravens are 0-2, and like there are places where the conversation is about Lamar Jackson, who anyone who watched the football game, anyone with a brain would say, my God, I think Lamar Jackson played about as well as a quarterback can given the circumstances that he was in, right? Like you're running for every play, somebody is in your face, and yeah, he had an interception, but it was an interception that literally was off the hands of his wide receiver on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean that's somebody who's looking at a stat book and trying to create narratives.
Right.
Lamar Jackson just played his tail off. He was a one-man gang in the second half against the Chiefs, and last week they tried. You could tell they clearly were trying to not have him run as much. The way the Raiders were rushing him, they did not create run lanes for him to escape. And then, like you said, the protection issues. I mean, Max Crosby and those guys were on him a lot of times. Some of the things they were doing with their linebacker to just create problems in that intermediate passing game. That was a tough out. So Lamar Jackson is the least of the Ravens' concerns right now. He is the guy who's going to continue to keep them in playoff contention.
How do we talk like adults about Justin Tucker at this point, Steve?
Yeah, he's missed one each game, but it's Justin Tucker. I mean, again, are you going to sit there and be like, we need to bring in a new kicker?
Oh, and that's the part, right? That's why I said I phrase it the way that I do. Anybody who would suggest that you're cutting Justin Tucker is insane. But like, I do still think we have to acknowledge it because it does go beyond just the last two games. It goes to like. He's something like, one for his last 7, one for his last 8 on 50-yard field goals. Like, I do think we have to acknowledge there's something here that we have to monitor. I just don't know how to discuss it appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one, look, and you always have to weigh the battle. Like, okay, is this guy getting older? Is he losing something off of his fastball? And
right.
Look, there are metrics you have to really consider, but is he coming up clutch? When is he missing this? So, and then that adjusts your play calling. Okay, we have to go for it here because Justin can no longer bang these kicks in, or the conditions are something, weather conditions or something. So, again, it's not time to bail on something like this. I'm sure he knows he's got to be better. This is a Hall of Fame kicker. This is just not something where I'm going to be like, okay, you look at the point margin, yes, he had a miss that cost him the game, but
right.
That to me, that's not the reason why they lost that football game against
I completely. I think it's compounded, Steve, by the fact that what's the stat that he's 0 for 2 on 50+ yard kicks, and every other kicker is 35 for 37 on 50. I think it's just compounded by it's a season where Mike Tirico's saying things like, "Boy, it's almost like a golfer hitting a 300-yard drive. Everybody's doing it," and we're just sort of rolling our eyes like. Yeah, yeah. Well, almost everybody's doing it, and it just makes no damn sense. You brought up the AFC thing, and look, I still think the Chiefs are going to prove to be the team to beat in the AFC, but particularly the AFC North, where we all acknowledge that we know this is a very good division, but I wonder if what we're seeing is that it's not a top-heavy division. And that it might really well be that these are 4 teams that are all battling to be like 10-7. One of them's going to get to 11-6, and that might end up being enough to win the division just because of how many battles they're going to prove to be all season long.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, look, the Steelers are 2-0 right now, and they really can't score touchdowns.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, the Bengals are 0-2. Is anybody like, oh, doom and gloom there? Like, and the Browns, they're 1-1. This is going to be that type of division as it typically is. Yeah, last year the Ravens ran away with it, but this is why top to bottom it's the best division in football. So, you look at that, you look at the AFC East where everyone's like, oh, the Jets are going to run away with it, or the Bills are going to run away with it. That's going to level up too. So it's right now it's 2 weeks in. And with so many teams not playing guys in the preseason, this is their preseason. We've seen very few true identities of teams right now, and that includes the Ravens. About the only teams we know their identities are like the Giants and the Panthers. Right? We know they're going to be picking at the top of the draft.
They're not good, and we know that one of the teams has Patrick Mahomes, and as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and he's breathing, they're going to be good. I'll present it to you this way then, Steve. Of the teams that are maybe like the surprise 2-0 teams. So the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Chargers, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Seahawks. Of that group, which to you like passes the eye test the most of like this might not be just a fluke or they played the right opponents. This might legitimately be a team that threatens to do something in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's two teams that I was talking about in the preseason that we can't overlook, and I think that's Seattle and Minnesota. I think these are very good football teams who are only going to get better. They're constructed in ways where there's tremendous talent, there's tremendous coaching, and we know their identities, right? Even though Seattle's got a new head coach, the Ravens' old DC, we know who they are. They're a muscle, grind it out, every now and then take a big shot, pass play football team, right? The Vikings are a team going to be super solid on defense. They can light it up with the explosive plays, right? And so I look at those teams. Look, I love the way the Saints are playing, and everyone's talking about Clint Kubiak and how he's changed that offense. We know defensively they're rock solid, so we'll see. But it's an intriguing start. But like I said, man, let's not go swimming in the fool's gold pond yet. There's still a lot of football to be played.
No, I completely agree, and I this is the way it works. Everything that we think we know from 1 week to the next in this league, we're constantly reminded, constantly. Like, no one on the planet saw the Cardinals looking like the best team in football last week. Like, nobody thought that was happening, and now we got to look at them and say, wow, that Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison connection, boy, that might be game-changing, right? Like, that might be
could be.
I don't know. We'll find out as it goes on. And I'll bring that before I let you go, Steve. The Ravens, the next team they see, the Cowboys, and a lot of there's a lot of that in Baltimore this week. Like, oh man, and look at the schedule. All of a sudden, this could get away from them. They could be 0-4, and I'm like, right, but the Cowboys just got throttled. Like, I'm not telling you that they won't beat the Ravens. They might very well, but I don't know how much you fear the Cowboys, who appear to be a pretty one-dimensional team offensively, right?
Yeah, and look, they could be saying the same thing about the Ravens, right? Oh, they're 0-2. They're right. So, but I think if the Ravens can kind of put their two halves together. Yeah. That we saw the past 2 weeks, they should be in really good shape. But, like the one thing where when you look at the Cowboys, their interior defense is a significant question. When you look at the Ravens, their interior offensive line, that's where I think you've got, some question marks as well. Which one of those areas is really going to factor into this game plan? Because I think that's where both teams are going to be focusing on getting better.
He is Steve Wyche. Again, he's NFL Network's chief national reporter. You can watch him on The Insiders Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 o'clock on the NFL Network. And as always, you can follow him on Twitter at Wyche89. Steve, always appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking a few minutes for us.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
Steve Wyche, NFL Network, joining us here on GCR. It's that it is the fine line between, like, yes, this is a problem. It's not okay, and yet today, should we be panicked? And I probably default to not panicked, concerned. It's almost like the Justin Tucker thing is a microcosm of the conversation, right? Like, panicked? No, not panicked. Concerned? You asked me specifically, should we be panicked about the offensive line? Yes. Yes. Panicked. If the offensive line performs like this and doesn't get help moving forward, the season will come apart at the seams. Unquestionably. But could personnel changes, could simple growth, like Andrew Voorhees has been bad. I guess it's just how well Ronnie Stanley played. Like, I thought the fact they were able to get things going to the left on Sunday was maybe representative of the fact that Andrew Voorhees was getting better. No. No, it's certainly not. It's not just PFF. It's like every film person on the face of the planet is like, dude, it was actually worse than you thought it was for Andrew Voorhees. Like, he might have actually been their worst offensive lineman, although Ronnie Stanley did play really well. But, like, could Andrew Voorhees just get better in the coming weeks? I think that's a reasonable place where you could think there could be growth. Some of the others, as I mentioned before, might need to be personnel changes in order for some of the other issues along the offensive line to be fixed. So, yeah, is there if you said, what are you panicked about? I'm panicked about that. I'm not panicked about the pass defense, which at the moment is the worst yards per game pass defense in the NFL. Now, it's a very small sample size. I'm concerned about Kyle Hamilton. Between it looking like he's playing through an injury and just, as Femi Ayanbadejo brought up on the show yesterday, it just doesn't look like they're using him like the weapon that we think Kyle Hamilton should be. And whether that's because of the injury or whether that's because they don't have their slot corner, Arthur Millette, or whether that's because whatever, Nate Wiggins on top of that wasn't on the field this week, whether that's because it's Zachary Orr getting comfortable as defensive coordinator and calling the plays, and he's just not yet at a place where, you know, he's able to deploy Kyle Hamilton the way that we would like to see him deployed. Whatever the reason might be, Kyle Hamilton has not seemed right in the first 2 weeks of the season. So I'll acknowledge concern about that. That's concern. The rest of it, I think, is it's going to get sorted out. I think they have too much. I think this is too good of a group for me to be terribly concerned about the pass defense in general. I think, if anything, we'd say as far as the edge rush is concerned, it's probably been a bit more fruitful than we thought it might be early in the season. I think there's reason for optimism about Odafe Owe in particular. Although, if you want to point out that, like, besides the sacks, did he have the full impact on the game that you wanted him to have? I don't know, but I think I might be willing to make that trade. I'm not panicked about the pass defense. Offensive line, panic. Team in general, not panicked about. Justin Tucker, concerned, not panicked. Offensive line, full on, unmitigated panic. All right, speaking of offensive line, our next guest, one of my favorites, he was Super Bowl 47 champion and a guy that helped solve their problems because for some reason he wasn't starting at the beginning of the year, and I'll never understand that, but that's a conversation for a different day. He was back in town this weekend helping to celebrate his former teammate, Jacoby Jones. It's always a pleasure to welcome back to the program my buddy, a tennis player extraordinaire. He is Mr. Bryant McKinnie. He's back with us now here on GCR. Big Mac, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
No problem, Glenn. I'll never understand it either, but some people had to get fired for things to make those adjustments back then.
At least they didn't run out of time to get it right? Like,
exactly.
At least they were able to figure it out before the clock ran out, and now we all get to have those memories because of it.
Right.
Bryant, first of all, it's great to chat with you, man. Just being back this weekend and celebrating Jacoby, and that was special seeing all you guys get back together. Can you tell me what Jacoby means to you, what he meant to that team, what he meant to this, to what you know of Baltimore?
Jacoby was like kind of like a spark plug. He kind of gave everybody energy because he was always high energetic, and that can be very contagious. So you have moments where you may be down, he comes in, it's going to be very lively, and it can kind of pass over to you. So he gave us that little spark. when we're in the locker room. So he definitely will be missed because he was a fun teammate, on and off the field. So, everybody was, happy to come and be supportive for his mother and his son as well.
No, and I appreciate that. And I think of the two of you guys. Like, you guys were definitely two of the personality guys on that roster. The two of you were definitely the guys that were out in town and shaking hands and kissing babies. And I just wonder how much that personality was it was really like a locker room full of big personalities on that team.
Oh, it definitely was during that time period. It was definitely like a big personality team. Because you had Terrell Suggs. You had a lot of people with Ray Rice. You had a lot of guys with big personalities in that one locker room. Justin Tucker. So, it was just a great time, a great group of guys. So it was, good to see a lot of people. Like Bernard Pierce came back too, and a lot of people haven't seen him.
That's cool.
In a very long time as well too. So it was great. It was great seeing everyone.
I appreciate that you guys celebrated him that way, and the Ravens appropriately celebrate him because he was such a special cat, dude. He was 101, man. Like, they don't make
definitely
him.
Was.
Right.
He made a lot of big plays for us in our playoff run and in the Super Bowl.
No doubt.
He was a huge part of it.
It's crazy because there will be people that will look back on Jacoby like, man, he was a returner. And, you forget how imperative he was as a receiver during that run.
Yeah.
Like, just having a third option to go along with Anquan and
Well,
Torrey.
remember, the Denver game, he's the one who caught the big
Exactly
play for
right.
us even
Exactly
get
right.
to the position that we were, so to win the game. So he made the big play for us to get there, and then ran the big kickoff back in the Super Bowl. So he definitely had his hands on a lot of good things during that run.
No doubt about it, man. Imperative during that run. All right, so you're here. You see this team right now. You heard what I just said, bro. I am panicked about this offensive line. Like, is it fair, would you say, bro, give them time, they're going to get this thing figured out? Where are you at with watching this offensive line right now?
I think I feel like they may bring somebody in soon at a certain point. I mean, you can only go, how much longer can you say, we'll get it figured out? I don't know if somebody's not knowing their assignment or somebody just being outworked. So that's something they probably can see more in the film room. But, something has to take place because we have to kind of fill this void,
I have no – and look, it's to the point where, you can say, hey, well, this guy earned the job in training camp. Like, all well and good, man, but, it's not working. It's just not – maybe they won a competition. That's all well and good. But, man, it's just not good enough. You can't win NFL games, going out there and just hoping that it's going to get figured out at some point. How long does it take? Can you generically, Bryant, lay this out? For a group of guys – that are molding together. And this is difficult to do, right? It's 3 new starters for the Ravens offensive line this season. How long should it be expected to take for a group to mesh together if they're going to?
I would say by, the 4th week, by then, because you've had preseason and about a week 4, now you're seeing game speed. You should be able to figure it out the 4th to 5th week. But that comes with them having to communicate with each other as well, too. Because maybe some people are unsure or the communication is not there, but they have to make sure they're over-communicating at this point because they are new and they're not familiar, how each other plays yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure at this point you're over-communicating until you get a good feel on how the person plays next to you.
He is Bryant McKinnie. He's with us here on GCR. Bryant, it's funny because you bring up the preseason, right? The Ravens, and a couple of these guys did play in the preseason. Some of the new starters played in the preseason. But overall, the Ravens have become allergic to, regulars playing in the preseason. And I get it, right? It's just the risk of injury. And I'm not really suggesting or campaigning that they have to change their strategy. But you do see other teams, like the Chiefs, that are still putting their guys out there. Do you feel like that is maybe part of the issue for this team right now, that because they don't play the overwhelming majority of their regulars in the preseason, it is taking them a little bit more time to sort of click during the course of the regular season?
Well, I would for sure say if I have an offensive line out of 5, 3 are new starters, I definitely would have them playing to get as many reps as they can just because they're not familiar with each other, and that's 5 people that have to kind of be on the same page. So maybe you don't something like your running backs, receivers, you can sit out with it, but your O-line definitely allow them to get as much time, live bullets as they can.
I think it's and all 5 of them together. It's important that even because I think a lot of people would say, dude, Ronnie Stanley's been through so much injury-wise, you don't want him out there in the preseason. But is the idea you want to have those 5 guys working together at least a little bit in order to try to get them comfortable?
Yeah, and you need them to work. You need to have them work in the environment of a game time situation. Practice isn't enough. You know what I'm saying? Because practice is you want to go to those guys so much that it's you kind of know who you're going against in practice. So in a game time situation, you got to see how people respond.
Bryant, you guys went through, again, ironically, there was a certain change that was made that seemed to fix everything. But we remember that season, there was a dark period.
Well, I started out and it was crazy. It was weird about that season. Well,
yeah.
It's a business. That was a business situation with that anyway, because I started out in preseason, I was the starter.
Yeah.
And then I graded out I graded out the highest, but then they wanted to change their philosophy as far as they wanted to do no huddle. And I didn't even have the opportunity to compete to see if I could do it. They were like, well, you're older. We don't know if you can keep up, so we're going to switch the line. So I never got the opportunity. So in a sense, though, it kind of kept me more fresh than everybody else, though. So
that's interesting.
I was able to kind of play.
Boy, I've never talked to you about that. Because we remember how well you played in that push to the Super Bowl. Do you have some feeling that maybe you wouldn't have been as dominant had you been playing all season long?
Well, I was kind of pissed off too, so that was a little different too. So,
I had a nice healthy chip on your shoulder.
At that point, I have another gear that I can always raise up to, and I just stayed there the whole time.
I guess that makes sense. I guess that makes a lot. Yeah, you want to start playing me now, huh? Okay. Well, let me show you what you've been missing.
Taking it out on everybody else.
That's actually really great, bro. That is really great. Wow. Okay, so let me go back though. You guys did late in that season go through a point at which it looked like a mess. Right now there are people that are like, dude, this is a mess. Can you just give a reflection to how quickly that can change in football? That it looks bad right now, and you don't want to be 0-2, and you don't want to lose at home. But is it possible that we are making too much out of it, that in 2 weeks, we could be having a completely different conversation at that point?
Well, the Raiders have a good defensive line. So, I mean, we do have to acknowledge that. They do have a good defensive line. However, at home, I just feel like it could have been, a little better protection. But I don't know if there's somebody that's back there that's, fighting for other positions or something. But,
yeah.
I mean, something has to take place where it becomes a little more cohesive, but that is a lot to have 3 new starters. So it's just, I don't know if I've ever been part of an offensive line where it's 3 different starters, 3 new starters in one season.
And all guys who are inexperienced. It's not 3 veteran guys that were brought in that were dominating somewhere else. All guys that have next to no starting experience.
Yeah.
In Andrew Voorhees' case, no experience in the NFL at all.
Oh, okay, so then I guess they're just kind of just having to grow with that, or put their trust in those guys. But I mean, those guys need to really do the extra things of film study, because I feel like some of this can be film study, and just doing the extra things they need to do to make the corrections.
All right, so let's get to the important part. Did you watch the In the Arena series about Serena yet?
I've seen a couple. I haven't seen all of them.
Yo, I loved it. I was, and you know me, I'm an obsessed fan, right? So I'm the perfect audience for it. But there were legitimately things that, first of all, the Indian Wells episode is one of the most compelling episodes of television that I've ever watched. Revisiting everything that happened the day of that final and the absolute bull-ass nonsense that people genuinely believed that, Richard was picking who was going to win the match each time. We are so deeply unserious as a society that was ever a thing. That people genuinely believed that, genuinely thought that there was.
I remember that they really believed that he was just picking who was going to win. It's wow.
It's as low level as it gets, and I think the other part that people forget is she still through all that somehow won that match at Indian Wells that day, which is just a statement to how truly dominant and great she really is. That despite the fact that she had done nothing wrong and everyone hated her, she was still oh, by the way, I'm just going to go ahead and win the match.
And that's just, her birthday's 3 days after me. It's just sometimes you just have this focus level of, okay, now I'm pissed off. Just like I just told you when they threw me in the game, I had a certain level where I could just zone out and just focus really in on this. And
Channel it, man. No doubt, bro.
So she took her frustration out on the tennis court.
All right. So is Miami back at this point?
With Miami, I just want to say one game at a time. I don't want to get too excited, but I'm loving the way they're playing. It's a reminiscent of, my years there. So it's very exciting right now, and I just want to keep the momentum going.
What else is going on in your world these days, bro?
Just my nonprofit, Be Major Foundation, and my company, Let's Chat, where we do language translation in real time.
Wow, man. That's all. How'd you get involved with that? That's awesome.
Just being in the right place at the right time, and then me living in South Florida, realizing that we need it. So we've actually translated some of the games for the NFL. The NFL was been our time for like 3 years. We got to renew with them soon, but yeah. So we've done Super Bowls and all.
That's really cool, man. That is really, really cool. Congratulations, bro. That's amazing.
Thank
Good
you.
For you, dude. At Bryant McKinnie is how you can follow him on Twitter. What about Instagram? Are you on there?
Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, everything is all the same, Bryant McKinnie.
Brother, I always enjoy our conversations, man. You were always one of my favorite people to be around during your time in Baltimore.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you catching up with us, dude, and really appreciate everything you guys did for Jacoby this weekend.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
It's Bryant McKinnie, Big Mac, Super Bowl 47 champion with us here on GCR. Yeah. He brings up there might need to be personnel changes, and I think we're approaching that point. Like, I don't know that you have to do that after 2 games. Again, let's go back and revisit this, right? Like, if Isaiah Likely gets the toe down, the offensive line problems are still the same. But maybe they go convert the 2-point conversion, they're sitting here and they're 1-1 instead of 0-2. Or let's do the same thing. What happens if the pass interference? And now they're 2-0. The offensive line issues are still overwhelming. But are you panicked at that point? Are you just making changes for the sake of making changes? It doesn't look right for Daniel Faalele. It just does not look like he is either ready to or ever will be an NFL guard. But are they seeing something in practice that's not translating to the game, and do they then believe it's just a matter of time of him getting comfortable, and are they willing to drag it out? I keep coming back to it. It feels like, to me, oddly, the first one, Roger Rosengarten, I think, is the guy that gets the bigger opportunity. And that might open up the chance for it to be McCary at right guard. But if they decide to go to Ben Cleveland, they decide it. I don't know if it's going to be this week.
Maybe they're trying the Bryant McKinnie strategy, or they want to keep Rosengarten fresh and piss him off a little bit.
Get him pissed off.
Yeah,
but you can only make a Super Bowl run if you're, in position to make a Super Bowl run. You can't.
That's fair.
You can't.
That's fair.
You can't do it if you start off 0-4. Like that would become quite problematic at that point. I don't know. But yeah, it might very well be that personnel changes are going to be part of the story. All right. When we come back in, we will get a tidbit. We will get tubular, and I'll pose the other question to Griffin from trivia last night. And I think I'll see. I'm gonna say he goes. I'm gonna give you. I think you go 2 for 4. I think you go 2 for 4. We'll see.
You see, you're saying it like that's a compliment, but
I think that I'm setting an appropriate bar, is what I'm doing. Appropriate might be 1 for 4, but I believe in you, so I'm going to say you go 2 for 4.
Ridiculous.
We'll see. As we wind down for a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
PressBox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Adebayo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday or PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, EasyPass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we are winding down for a Tuesday edition of the program. All right, hot shot. If you were to list every county in the state of Maryland, which 4 would be last alphabetically? If you were to list every county in the state of Maryland alphabetically, which 4 would be the last on the list?
Well,
Remember, I set the bar at 2 out of 4.
Not Carroll. Not Baltimore.
Well, that's up to you. You tell me what you think. I'm not going to help you.
Worcester.
Is that an official guess or
Wacomico?
Okay. These you got to tell me if these are official guesses or you're
right,
just.
I guess I'm throwing them out there for now.
Okay.
So Wacomico, Worcester. Washington. That's a county here, right? Yeah.
If you think I'm going to help you, dog, I'm not helping you here. You're going to have to go ahead and drown on your own.
Garrett, Allegheny. No, that Allegheny County's not here. Is there an Allegheny County here?
Brother?
Yeah, we're going Washington.
Brother?
Then Washington, Worcester, Wacomico. I'm guessing no, because you got all 4 of these?
I went 4 for 4.
Okay.
And it didn't even have to wrote them all down. Didn't really require much thought.
Howard. No, it didn't require much thought.
It didn't. Some people know
There's
the state they live in.
So, now I can't remember if there's any more, W ones. I can't. There's Somerset. So, okay, that rules out Queen Anne's. I might have to just call and lock it in there. That starts with a D.
But Dorchester, is that what you were?
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think of as many as I can here. What else is down there? St. Mary's County. That's a county, right?
Brother, I'm not bailing you out on this one.
So Somerset would still be lower than St. Mary's, right? Does it go by ST dot or does it go SA?
It's eternally the NFC West issue, right? I guess not anymore because St. Louis isn't in the NFC West any longer. But this is always I actually asked this question lots of times between San Francisco and St. Louis, like which came first alphabetically.
All right, you know what? Let's just go Somerset then. All right, let's do. I guess I'll lock it in.
Lock it in. What are the answers?
At Washington, Worcester, Wacomico, and Somerset.
Let me tell you something, man. You vastly surpassed
Really?
my expectations.
Okay. Did I go
for
perfect?
You. Not at all.
Oh.
But you went 3 out of 4.
Darn.
3 out of 4.
So I'm forgetting another.
Incredible.
Later than S.
Yes.
A B C D.
No. Mm-hmm.
T V.
Mm-hmm.
T.
It is a T. I'll give you that. It's a T.
Talbot
County.
Darn it.
Talbot County.
Sneaky Talbot.
County
Sneaky Talbot
is the other one. But let me tell you something, man. The fact that you even went, by the way, would absolutely do better than any other producer we've ever had on this show.
Better than Kyle?
Unquestioned. Kyle might not have gotten any of them.
He wouldn't have gotten a single W.
Kyle was that like, I'm in the city, man. I don't know counties. Like that was.
I would have gotten. I think I had to guess Somerset because my sister lives in Somerset Hall, Maryland. Right
how about that?
So
how about that? That does, I guess.
Had to.
I thought there was a chance that you would have missed one of the Worcester, Wacomico, or Washington as well. I thought there was a chance that you would leave. I absolutely did not think you were going to get Talbot. Like 1,000% thought that one would be one that would be off your radar altogether.
Well, I guess
it is sort of like
right.
It's that county that like nothing really happens in. So like. People just don't think about Talbot County.
What is in Talbot County? What's the county seat in Talbot County?
What is this? The county seat is
it's Eastern Shore, right?
Well, it's the Eastern Shore, but it's not like down.
Gotcha.
It's sort of in
between Delaware and like Cecil.
Yeah, well, it's not between the two, but it's like
Cecil.
below. Yeah.
Okay.
St. Michael's, I think, is in Talbot County.
St. Michael's. Yeah, I would have ever gotten. I don't think I can name.
What is the county seat?
I think I can name a road that goes through there.
Oh, Easton. Yeah, I should have gotten it. Easton
Easton
definitely is the big one in Talbot County. Yeah. So, like, when you go over the bridge, you do go through Talbot County. Easton. That makes all the sense in the world. That's where we went curling once in Talbot County. Undefeated.
The official sport of Talbot County.
Undefeated curling skip, and never forget that. I want more credit for my athletic accomplishments. Every time I do a broadcast, I have to, like when I have an analyst, I have to be like, enjoying the night by former UMBC head coach and UMass standout Jamie Watson. And I always want to get my own credit, right? Like I want it to be recognized, the things that I've accomplished in my own sporting career. So I've taken that upon myself recently. I'll say, she's former UMBC head coach Jamie Watson, and I am former sack race champion Glenn Clark.
Oh.
Or I...
The 20th fastest man in Annapolis.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm going to start doing that more frequently on broadcasts.
I'm sure they'll love that. I'm sure everybody will enjoy that.
I think they
greatly.
get a kick out of it. I think that everybody always puts a smile on their face. You did, far better than I expected you to do. I tell you what was one that was alarming. Our movie guy...
It sounds like he's more and more been coming up in the conversation.
It's been a little bit of a rough couple of days for Brad, our movie guy.
He's like the Orioles defense recently.
There was a James Earl Jones category, and it was here's the name of the character, tell me what movie it was. And the first 3 were all very obvious because it was Terrence Mann, which obviously is Field of Dreams. Mr. Myrtle, of course, was on the list. And then there was one at the bottom that King Joffrey was on the list. So, like, those 3 were obvious. The 4th one, admittedly, I did not know
Rupert?
at all.
Was it Rupert?
Rupert, no.
Yeah,
it was not
Claudine?
Rupert. It was Dr. Strangelove was the answer. And I don't remember the name of the character in Dr. Strangelove that he played.
I don't know that one.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
He played Lieutenant Lothar Zog in Dr. Strangelove. Now,
Lieutenant Zog.
I had no idea. I had no clue, so I was not helpful in that way. But I'm not the movie guy on the team. How about this one? I had to bail him out. I was the only guy on the team that knew one of the movie questions last night.
Wow.
The film Hillbilly Elegy, of course, which is the adaptation of the J.D. Vance book, was directed by who?
I don't know. What's the name of this movie?
Hillbilly Elegy.
Was that a joke you just made, or this is actually an adaptation?
No, that was actually a novel, or I guess it wasn't a novel. I don't know. It was supposed to be like a reflection on his life in Appalachia.
Okay.
But there's a lot of.
I
don't really want to go down this.
Yeah.
It was. It was nominated for Academy Awards.
What?
Yes.
When did this come out? I guess I should look up the movie.
2020 was the year that it came out.
And it wasn't like a home movie.
No, it was not a home movie. It was a legitimate Amy Adams, Glenn Close.
What?
The stars of the film. Yeah, it was a big. It was nominated. Hang on a second.
So who was the
at
director?
The Academy Awards. It didn't win any Academy Awards. It was nominated
Good.
for multiple Academy Awards. Glenn Close was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Globes.
I guess if one of the actors is going to get a nomination, that's fine.
Both Amy Adams and Glenn Close were nominated for
Best Screenplay,
Screen Actors Guild Awards.
Huh.
The director of the film.
You're asking for the director.
The director of the film.
Let's go through it. Let's go through it. It wasn't Spielberg.
You got to tell me, dog.
So it might have been.
You got to tell me. I said it out loud. I'm like, it was, and then they all
John
look
Favreau?
at they
No.
all look at me with a blank stare, and then I'm like, I'm almost 100% certain that's correct, but the fact that you're all looking at me with a blank stare talked me out of, instead of wagering 5 to only wager 3 on it, just because nobody at the table,
Was it
including
Christopher
our
Nolan?
movie guy. Is this an official guess, or I got to go back now that you've changed the rules for what's a guess or not?
Was
these
it? Yeah,
official
sure.
guesses?
Is it Christopher Nolan?
Not Christopher Nolan.
Thought it was part of the Nolan-verse.
To be clear, I've never seen this film.
Let's go John Favreau.
It is not John Favreau.
Other
busy
big
making
directors.
Iron Man
yeah.
5 or whatever.
The Russo brothers.
It's not the Russo brothers.
Just take a break from Marvel movies and
Yeah, not them.
the J.D. Vance story.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is a big director. If you kept naming big directors, you should probably get this one. It's a very, very big director. Yeah.
I don't know. Greta Gerwig.
His career includes, it's not Greta, it's a he. Career includes such films as Splash, Cocoon, Willow, Backdraft, Apollo 13, perhaps you've heard of, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Da Vinci Code, A Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, Frost Nixon, Angels and Demons, Rush, Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Oh, shoot. What the heck? Why did this guy do this movie?
This was a critically acclaimed film.
I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know. I should. Now that you named all those movies, I definitely should know it, but I don't. I do not know.
Kind of bad.
Solo was like his most recent, or
I don't know. Hang on. Let me go back. Well, no, Hillbilly Elegy was more recently than that.
Sure.
Apparently, he did a movie called 13 Lives. Oh, I would have watched this movie. This is about the cave rescue. Huh, I should have watched that. That's something I would watch. Viggo Mortensen and Joel Edgerton and Colin Farrell were in it. How have I not watched that film? It's right up my alley.
I don't know.
Ron Howard.
Ron
Howard directed Hillbilly Elegy. All right. I believe it is time for us to get a tidbit.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got for tidbit? Now you can emasculate me.
Yeah. Here's you're right. So over the weekend, Garrett Cole intentionally walked Rafael Devers with the bases empty, and it was also in the first 4 innings of the game. So Codify Baseball on Twitter, they shared the last, or at least in the last 50 years, he was only the 4th player to ever draw a bases loaded intentional walk. Sorry, not bases loaded. A bases empty.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I meant. I don't know if I misspoke the first time. But yeah, bases empty intentional walk in the last 50 years. Can you name the 3 other guys?
I'm a little bit surprised that never happened with Barry Bonds.
Or is that not a guess?
Wait, okay. I thought you said it was
the last 50 years. Is 3
Okay.
4
3,
players.
Sorry,
Rafael
got it.
Devers is the 4th.
The 4th. So Bonds.
Bonds, yes, 5 times between.
Who was also once walked with the bases loaded,
Mhm.
of course,
Yeah.
famously. I'll try Sosa.
No Sosa.
McGuire.
No McGuire.
Griffey.
No.
Okay, we're doing well here. How about Aaron Judge?
Aaron Judge, yes. And it happened 6 weeks ago. So
Okay.
Also this year.
All right.
So Rafael Devers, Aaron Judge this year, and then Barry Bonds 5 times across 2002 and 2003, and then there's one other.
One
in
other
the last 50
is
years.
Albert Pujols.
Not Albert Pujols.
But last 50 years. So this goes all the way back to 1974. So it could be Reggie Jackson.
It could be. I guess I'll give it to you that all 4 of these guys, it did happen on this side of the millennium.
All right, then. How about David Ortiz?
No, David Ortiz.
How about Bryce Harper?
No, Bryce Harper.
How about Miguel Cabrera?
No, Miguel Cabrera.
Josh Hamilton?
No, Josh Hamilton. This happened in 2007.
Happened in 2007.
It would have been, it was towards like the back end of his
Jim Thome
career. No, not Jim Thome. That's an excellent guess, though.
Excellent guess. A-Rod?
Not A-Rod.
Jim Thome is an excellent guess.
Because these guys just have one very weird thing in common.
They have one very weird thing in common. What? One very weird thing in common. They played for the Phillies. Ryan Howard.
No, not that.
That's not the thing they
But
had in common.
you were like on the right.
Is it a team they played for?
Yeah.
They both played for the Guardians.
No.
Indians. They played for the White Sox.
No.
They played for the Orioles.
Yes.
Vladimir Guerrero.
Vladimir Guerrero.
Vladimir Guerrero. There
Not
you
in
go.
07 was an Oriole, but yes,
Yeah.
in 07, Vladimir Guerrero Sr. drew a bases empty intentional walk.
There you go.
That wasn't going to be my tidbit, but I guess
think
that
it's
was
good enough.
pretty
I
good.
think it's good enough.
Other thing, though, the Falcons, with a minute 56 left in the game last night, they had, according to Next Gen Stats, had a 0.7 chance of winning.
That seems like that's not good math. Then they had the ball. Oh no,
With a minute 56.
Oh,
with the
they
ball
didn't.
with a
They
minute
hadn't have it
56.
back yet. They got it back with like 1:30, right?
Yeah. So this
they
was
didn't have
so I guess the Eagles.
So the assumption was the Eagles were going to score a touchdown still at that
Yeah.
point. They were going to make it a 2-possession game, and that's I still seems like that's too low of a number.
7th most improbable win in the Next Gen Stat era since 2016.
That math don't math. Like that's got to be. In order for you to have a less than negative,
So you're mad at Next Gen Stats?
Yeah, I think it's got to be a 2-possession game for that number to be that low. That math does not work for me. Like assuming that someone's going to score, there's so many things that can happen. Assuming a touchdown does not work for me. Where were they on the field at that point?
They were like inside the. Weren't they inside the 20? I'm pretty sure.
I do think they were inside the 20, but I don't think it was
like
it's one thing if
Saquon drops the.
Right.
Drops the 3rd and 3.
Right.
And so they decided to just kick it and go up 6.
But the point that I would make would be, it's one thing if the Eagles, if it's 1st and goal from the 2, and you're like, well, they push it all the time. So, by the way, give Maryland credit for that. I loved that on Saturday night when they had like 1st and goal from the 5, and they were basically just like, yeah, we're just gonna keep pushing. Like, we got 4 plays to get 5 yards with a big old Billy Edwards who's gonna, yes. And didn't they do that after they had done like a push to convert on 4th? Like, if you've got 3rd and 2 from the 7, right now I'm just going to push until I'm in the end zone. Like, we're just going to keep doing this. Fall forward all day. So it's one thing if the Eagles are on the 2, right? Like, and it's 2nd and goal from the 2, and you're like, all right, well, it's the Eagles. They're scoring a touchdown here.
So they're saying they had a 99. I mean, I don't know. 99.3%
I think there's a flaw in the math, man. I don't think that math does not work. Like that there still can be a stop there that gives them the ball back with plenty of time. And how much of that is based on the fact that the Falcons hadn't moved the ball well during the game, but I don't think that like that can be factored into.
Everybody moves the ball well inside 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's all anybody. They just throw. Like, and the rules in the league benefit you to just keep throwing. I know I'm making way too big of a deal out of this, and I'm going to war.
Yeah, so somebody brought the point like does the model bringing in the new
All right,
kickoff as well, so everyone starts at the 30, so like you can. Like,
Yeah, that's a great point, right?
too.
Like you're bonused an extra 5 yards on top of it. So right at 156, it was 1st and 10 from the 17.
So they pick up. So they have 3-yard runs the next two.
Right. So they ran the ball twice to get it to 3rd and 3, and
They
then
used their final 2 timeouts.
the Barkley drop. Right. Correct. They used their final timeout 146. So they still had 2 timeouts at this point. They still had 2 timeouts in this moment. Actually, no, the first timeout was the one taken at 156. All right, so if they're saying they're factoring in it, they still had 2 timeouts at that point. And it's not like the Eagles could just keep picking up multiple first downs and hold the ball forever. Although if they had scored a touchdown,
I mean, if they had, well, if
they
pick
scored
up
a touchdown,
first,
the game's
if
over.
they pick up a first,
Yeah,
if
they pick up one first down, then they can take.
Yeah,
knees.
if Barkley catches that ball,
yeah, game's over. You're right. Your game's over. So I would actually like this stat maybe better at 146. What was the odds at 146 at 3rd and 3?
I can't see next gen's odds. Let me
Like that to me, that number should be greater than 156. Like at 146, I would think with no timeouts left and all you got to do is pick up 3 yards. And again, it's the Eagles, so if they pick up 2 yards, they're probably just going to go out and push it and end the game. Like that to me, that number should be if there was a highest percentage, it would be that moment, the 146 moment, not the 156.
So ESPN's model said 97.6% chance at the same point where next gen had 99.
I'm splitting the hairs because whatever. I'm leaving it. It's not worth. I've spent way too much time on it. It's 12:26. Let's get tubular.
Okay.
All
After
right?
the drop. Oh, never mind. That was not before the drop. All right.
Whatever. It happened. The Falcons won. That's the part that matters. Now let's get tubular.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring local food, shopping, and fun for all. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront, vibrant small towns, and family entertainment. Tickets on sale now at maryland5star.us.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular. The Orioles do open up their final homestand of the season as they welcome the Giants. 6:35 on Masson 2. Blake Snell on the mound for San Francisco against Albert Suarez. UMBC Soccer's an American tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. The other baseball this evening, Nationals Mets, 7:10 on Masson. MLB Network and ESPN+ for Yankees Mariners at 9:40. TBS has Phillies Brewers at 7:40. True TV has baseball tonight. I think it's one of those, it starts on True TV, and then it's going to be on both after the TBS game ends. But 9:40 for Astros-Padres this evening. Monumental, New York Liberty, Washington Mystics at 7 o'clock. CBS Sports Network, Phoenix Mercury, LA Sparks at 10:30. The USA Network for WWE NXT tonight at 8. Non-sports highlights?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Obviously, I guess it's still sports, but the Aaron Hernandez show on FX. That premieres tonight at 10 on FX.
I will watch it. I'm not gonna I will probably watch tomorrow. Like I don't think I'll wait long to look. I hate that I'm interested in it, but I am interested in it.
Dancing with the Stars season 33.
It will also be interesting to see the casting of that. Like that was what we killed the Clippers show over, was like how terrible the casting was.
I mean I don't know.
The Aaron Hernandez guy looks like I don't even know who that is.
I don't know who it is either. I didn't recognize really anyone in the they had because they had Ed O'Neill in the as Donald Sterling. And season 33 of Dancing with the Stars.
Apparently,
it's gonna be
apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger's son is playing Tim Tebow.
Well, yeah.
Patrick Schwarzenegger is playing Tim Tebow. And you know what? You could do worse.
Danny Amendola and Dwight Howard will be on Dancing with the Stars this season.
Yay. So will Reginald Vell Johnson, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even see that one. I saw Eric Roberts.
I hate the fact that I know why that came up in conversation. Apparently, I'm not kidding about this. Apparently, Reginald Vell Johnson's name might also be in the Diddy documents somewhere. And I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't know if he did something.
Man, you've been
bad.
diving in on the.
The internet seems to think that like these documents might end up having a lot of names in them. Like that it's not the Epstein list that we're talking about, but it's like these could be a hairy few days for a lot of people, apparently, is what the internet thinks. Now, I don't look, man, I am not an expert. I'm just interested. That's all.
Names that I don't. Well, I guess we don't know. But George Clooney, Caitlin Olsen, they'll be on Jimmy Kimmel.
No idea, dog.
Well, that last name I just said, maybe. Caitlin Olsen's got a new show on ABC tonight as well. High Potential.
You know what? It's funny. I trust her so much. Like, I like that other show that she did on Fox, The Mick. That was a good show. I don't know that there's.
She's like a cleaning lady in a
that's
police
also
precinct.
a genius, apparently.
Yeah. Yes, that's what it is.
I don't know. I just trust her so. I think she's so good that, like, there's a chance that this might actually be a watchable show.
George Clooney's in a movie with Brad Pitt that comes out Friday called Wolves, where
I feel like I should have heard more about a George Clooney.
It does look pretty good. It looks pretty good. I don't know. I don't really. I'm not exactly what the premise is. It looks like they're PIs or something, and they get like called to do the work on the same case, and then they see each other and they're like, "Oh, we're not working together." So of course they work together.
Okay.
And it looks fun. Amy Ryan's in it too. That's a new episode of Only Murders. There's a doc on Hulu, Child Star.
By the way, it looks like a lot of the cast of the Aaron Hernandez show is like Broadway actors. The person that's playing Aaron Hernandez starred in a remake of West Side Story. I don't know who Tanya Singleton is. I don't know how Tanya Singleton, but that's somebody who won the Tony Award for Carousel. And the person playing Urban Meyer was best known for his work on the Broadway stage, including the revival of On the Town. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm trying to see if I've seen any names here. Oh, Jesus. I don't know any of them.
I don't know.
Maybe it'll work.
I don't know.
Maybe that's why it will work, because we don't know him.
Tanya Singleton was Aaron Hernandez's cousin. That was very significant in this entire story. I do remember this person now.
Norbert Butz will play Bill Belichick.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best not to giggle.
What? You know who?
His name's Butts. How am I supposed to not giggle? It's like when you say Kikuchi Pidgeys and I'm not supposed to giggle.
He was. I don't know anything that he was in. Yeah, it looks like he was also might have been. Oh, he was in Justified City Primeval. So Child Star, Demi Lovato's talking to child stars and how it was tough.
Impacted their life.
Yes, how JoJo Siwa, Kenan Thompson, Drew Barrymore, Raven Simone.
I don't know if that one's gonna be.
I think that's really Peacock. World's Most Notorious Killers. Stories of the five of the worst serial killers in the world. Looks creepy. I guess if you're really bored on if you need a book club thing, I guess if you're really bored, you could check in there on Peacock.
There was something I was watching. Oh, what was I watching? There was something I was. Oh no, I started rewatching Homicide, but then they put Heels on Netflix, and I've been watching Heels, so that's been It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, it's absurd, but it's as a show goes, it's a pretty good show. They're clearly trying to do a Friday Night Light. It was like Friday Night Lights for wrestling, and it's kind of working. Honestly,
Is this a new show or
no? It was on Starz a couple years ago. It's the only Stephen Amell's the only.
Oh, CM Punk's in.
I don't know. I think he might be in season 2 because I'm for
sorry.
it. It's not in season 1, but I saw that James Harrison is one of the wrestlers in this show.
Apocalypse.
What?
Apocalypse?
Yeah, it's very weird. I'm I recognize that guy, and then I go to the internet. I'm like, that's James Harrison.
Chris Bauer,
former Raven, James Harrison, of course. People forget that. Anything else? We good?
Yeah.
It's 12:33. We gotta go. Well, first
of Heels.
Yeah, you need to remind me about what's going on at Live.
I do need to remind you that every time a touchdown is scored in a Baltimore or Washington home game this season, you'll be receiving, if you are a Live Rewards member, receiving $7 in free slot play. You must have your Live Rewards card inserted directly into the slot machine and be actively playing to get your prize. But once you do and a touchdown is scored, that $7 will populate for it, and it is valid for slot play only, and it is at Ronald Mills. You must be 21, and please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Very good. Thanks to Bryant McKinnie. Thanks also to Steve Wyche. Thanks to Mike Bordick, to Joe Serpico, and to Jay Feely. We'll get all of that up in the greatest hits section of the.
Oh my God, so good. Wait.
I thought we decided that because
I thought about it for a second.
Because he played so poorly last week after we did it, I thought we decided we could do it again this week. Maybe hope that it's like a curse of some sort.
Yeah.
So
we'll try it again.
Get it up in the greatest hits section of the.
Here we go.
GlenClarkRadio.com. Anything tomorrow? Oh, we're going to do some college football tomorrow, right?
Yes, we will.
Mike Loxley.
Mike Loxley will join us.
Is going to join us. You know who else is going to join us? Navy quarterback Blake Horvath is going to join us tomorrow.
All right.
So we'll do a little.
Is this Memphis week?
It is Memphis week. It is Memphis week. Yep, big game in Annapolis on Saturday. And stuff and things. No Drew tomorrow.
No Drew.
I believe no Drew tomorrow. Which I think means we have a chance to have a good show. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Maryland 5-Star, Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, Cruise Maryland, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle, Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, AJ Michaels, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. For the love of God, go Birds. Duke sucks.